Chapter 115. How could this be? It was as if an abandoned silver mine had a life of its own. It was inexplicable. The trees nearby were sparse, because all the trees had been cut down during the mining. There were many reddish-brown rocks piled up into a small hill. Meeping Silver Mine. Chu Feng had seen the engravings near the silver mine and knew its name. It seemed that this mine had been abandoned a few years ago. He circled around the silver mine from afar, observing from all directions. At the same time, his eyes were fixed on the tree. The entire tree was extraordinary. It was 3 meters tall and was surrounded by a misty fiery glow. Its lavender leaves shone brilliantly as if they were on fire. The tree exuded an astonishing vitality. Unfortunately, he could not tell what kind of plant it had mutated from. It was rooted right beside the silver mine. The diameter of the trunk was 1 foot. Compared to the mutated pine tree in Taihang Mountains, it was many times more magnificent. It was worth noting that the sapling that the 4 mutants discovered was no more than 3 feet tall. Even a tree of that size was more than enough for them to look down on their peers. One could imagine how extraordinary this tree was. Compared to the towering trees, it was not very thick, but it had a sense of vigor. The trunk was full of palm-sized cracks that spread out like the scales of a dragon. "Amazing tree!" Chu Feng exclaimed. However, he did not approach it. Even though the tree was very attractive, he did not take any action because this place was too strange. "I can smell the fragrance even from so far away. It must have borne fruits." He chose a vantage point and finally saw the 2 fruits in the depths of the tree through the dense foliage. They were as big as bowls and were entirely silvery white. They were overflowing with light. The 2 fruits were shaped like plums. The fragrance was very tempting. "If I eat this, will I be able to fight against the Beast King?" Chu Feng guessed. It should be enough, but he did not know why he felt uneasy. His heart even palpitated. This place made him feel very uncomfortable. It's too quiet. No ferocious birds or beasts are approaching. It's very strange. There was not even an ant or a bug nearby. There was only vegetation. Occasionally, the silver mine would let out a breathing sound. Indeed, it was like breathing. When the mine was spitting out white light, it was like breathing. When it was dim, it was like breathing in. There's another flower bud?" Chu Feng was shocked. After changing his position again, he saw a flower bud that was about to bloom amidst the dense foliage. It was huge and translucent. This made him have an urge to run over. But in the end, Chu Feng retreated silently. He ran for a long distance before he caught a mountain rat about 1 foot long. He grabbed its tail and threw it towards the silver mine. After the mountain rat landed, it was still dozens of meters away from the mine. Its eyes rolled around as it stared at the wondrous tree with a greedy look. In that instant it suddenly cried out miserably, and then it disappeared from its original location. It was guided by a wave of silver light into the ore, and soon after, it became completely silent. Chu Feng was shocked. This place was indeed strange. Just like that, he walked far away and caught a few exotic beasts to experiment. In the end, they were all swallowed by the silver mine. Chu Feng discovered that the area within 100 meters of the silver mine was absolutely dangerous. It was as if there was an invisible domain that would pull all living things into the mine. However, it was very safe within 100 meters. From the small mountain rat to the big mutated dog, they were all the same. As long as they stepped within 100 meters, they would immediately be swallowed by the silver mine. In the end, Chu Feng caught a colorful venomous python. It was about 7 or 8 meters long and placed its head within 100 meters of the mine. He pulled on the snake's tail with all his might, wanting to test how strong the power within the silver mine was. The venomous python hissed and flicked out its tongue. But before it could struggle, the silver mine lit up and was about to swallow it up. Chu Feng was shaken. He pulled on the snake's tail and felt a powerful force trying to pull him along. He pulled back with all his might. In the end, the 7 or 8 meter venomous python's body tensed up and was almost torn apart. Traces of blood seeped out of its body. He hurriedly let go, because that pulling force was too terrifying. The silver light was extending, all of it rushing towards him. Swoosh! The venomous python fell into the silver mine and immediately became silent. Chu Feng frowned and felt a chill run down his back. Fortunately, he was cautious enough. Otherwise, he would most likely have died here. The area within 100 meters of the silver mine was a dangerous place where all living things would die without a doubt. At the very least, he couldn't approach it with his current strength. That flower is about to bloom. I'll wait here and use some methods to stir up a gale. I don't believe I can't get some pollen. Chu Feng was quite cautious and didn't want to rush over. He wanted to wait outside. The sky darkened. He ate some food, drank some water, and sat not far away, quietly watching over her. The flower bud had opened up a bit and was about to bloom at any moment. At the latest, it would be about 2 days. Chu Feng could afford to wait. In truth, the flower had bloomed earlier than he had expected. When the silver moon hung high in the sky, the flower bud on the wondrous tree emitted a soft popping sound. In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng's hair stood on end. He fled at top speed without thinking. This was an instinctive intuition that made him feel great danger. It was a threat to his life, so he fled at subsonic speed. Chu Feng brought along a gale and the air was exploding. He was too fast. Before long, he stood on a mountain peak 10 li away from the silver mine. The area around the silver mine was no longer peaceful. There was a disturbance in the mountains. Originally, there were no living things in the surroundings, but after the petals bloomed, the fragrance of the flowers spread for several li and attracted the creatures of the outside world. Not long after, many vicious birds and fierce beasts appeared and rushed towards the silver mine. Even the creatures in the desolate mountains were restless and roaring. Unfortunately, they couldn't come out as if there was a restriction preventing them from doing so. Chu Feng felt 100 claws scratching his heart. It was such a pity that he could only watch helplessly. Was he going to miss such a great opportunity? Suddenly, his eyes widened in incomparable shock. The wild boars, hunting dogs, badgers, green wolves, and leopards in that area had all mysteriously collapsed. Chu Feng's vision was extremely sharp and could compete with the clairvoyant Du Huijin. He saw everything clearly. After the flower buds on the strange tree bloomed, they emitted a resplendent radiance and suffused the air with pollen. Those creatures seemed to have died immediately after smelling the fragrance. What's going on? Chu Feng was shocked and puzzled. Soon after, he saw an even more astonishing scene. A white light appeared in the silver mine. That was the gathering of metallic silver into a creature that was constantly smelling the flower fragrance. The metal has life? Chu Feng was horrified. In the night sky, there was an 8-meter-long bat emitting terrifying fluctuations. It swooped down with extreme speed. This was definitely a powerful mutant beast. Even if Chu Feng wanted to deal with it, he would have to spend quite a bit of effort. That was because when this bat flew, its mouth emitted black ripples. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. The rocks around the silver mine were all destroyed as it rushed towards the strange tree. Unfortunately, it directly fell down after smelling the pollen and died on the spot. All the creatures that rushed over died in the strong fragrance of the pollen. Chu Feng's hair stood on end. He finally knew why he had been alarmed earlier and wanted to escape involuntarily. The pollen was fatal and not an opportunity at all. All the creatures near the silver mine were dead. However, the silver mine was glowing with white light and the metallic liquid condensed. The silver mine actually had life. In addition, on the ground nearby, masses of silver-white metal appeared one after another. They should all be silver. After coming into contact with the pollen, they were actually transforming and becoming living beings. Finally, some silver dogs and silver leopards appeared and imitated the dead creatures on the ground to transform. Moreover, they moved quickly and dragged the corpses into the ancient mine or buried them around the strange tree. As fertilizer. Chu Feng understood. The flowers bloomed for a long time. In the end, the fragrance faded. The silver mine gushed with white light. All the creatures, including silver leopards, silver pigs, silver bats, and so on, flew over and turned into metallic liquid. Then, they sank into the ancient mine and merged into a living being. In the mine, the metal was constantly transforming and had no fixed form. Finally, the surroundings of the ancient mine returned to peace and tranquility. The living being of the silver mine sank into the mine. This is too terrifying. Is this a plant that was born specifically for metal? It can even promote the evolution of metal. Chu Feng murmured to himself. He felt that the situation was extremely serious. Sure enough, this world was still changing, and more fog was appearing. After a long time, he once again approached the silver mine and stood 100 meters away. What? He found a mass of silver light on the ground. There was a shiny piece of metal there. It had not mutated into a living being, but it should have come into contact with some pollen. Chu Feng carefully wrapped it in the animal skin, and then turned around and left with it. He did not waste any time and rushed through the night towards Shuntian. He felt that it was necessary to hire a specialist to identify this piece of metal. When Chu Feng returned after running for 800 miles in the night, it was already late at night. However, Shuntian was still bustling with people passing by from time to time. Chu Feng rushed past like a gust of wind. Even so, he still heard the words Angel Ox, Chu Feng, White Snake, etc. Apparently, he had just come out from a movie theater. He had no time to pay attention to it now. He went straight to the Hollow Jade Temple and sent someone to find the old man, Lu Tong, and wake him up. Brat, are you too excited? I know you are Angel Ox and you are famous all over the country. But you don't have to celebrate in the middle of the night. Lu Tong complained in a drowsy voice. Old man, something big has happened. I saw a silver mine come to life. Chu Feng quickly narrated and took out the snow-white piece of metal. Lu Tong was so shocked that he was no longer sleepy. What? Even the ore has begun to mutate and evolve? Moreover, that strange tree can only promote the evolution of metal? He knew that this was a serious matter. He took the piece of metal and immediately contacted the person in charge of a certain laboratory. He then sent someone to deliver it overnight. Chu Feng did not wait in the Hollow Jade Temple. He decided to come back tomorrow to see the result. It was already so late. When he returned home, he found that his parents were still awake in the living room. Wang Jing was especially excited. She shouted as soon as she saw him, Son, you did a great job this time. Chu Feng felt a headache coming on. He did not know what was going on. He had already turned off his communicator. Demon Ox the Great Sage has received a lot of good reviews. Many people are looking for you. They even contacted me and your dad. Wang Jing was very happy. Who? Chu Feng asked with a guilty conscience. A lot of people, for example, the girl who went on a blind date with you. She contacted you several times in one night, asking if you have returned. She's so proactive. I think there's a chance. Wang Jing said. Chu Feng knew that it was not a chance, but rather, she was angry. He guessed that Xia Qianyu was looking for him on behalf of Jiang Luoshan. She wanted to lure him out so that she could fight him. Sure enough, Wang Jing told him again, there's another lady, she said her surname is Jiang. She was very excited, her voice trembling when she spoke, as if her teeth were chattering. She told me to tell you to tell her that you know who she is when you return. Chu Feng did not need to think to know that she was Jiang Luoshan. How could she be excited? She must be impulsive. She wanted to fight him to the death. She must have dominated the hot search list after Demon Ox the Great Sage was released. It must have something to do with him. As for Jiang Luoshan's teeth chattering? How could that be possible? Chu Feng guessed that she was grinding her teeth. She was extremely angry. What's going on? Is there another explosive news report? Chu Feng was suspicious. Watch the news yourself tomorrow morning, Chu Ziyuan said, telling him to rest early. Wang Jing told Chu Feng, a lot of people are looking for you. They are all very excited. But I still feel that something is not right. Chu Feng got up and murmured, the world is so beautiful, but they are so irritable. He did not want to be on the receiving end of their attacks. He ran to take a shower and went straight to bed. He had rushed back to Shuntian for 800 miles. He was already tired, so he quickly fell asleep. That night, Chu Feng slept very soundly. However, many people were worried and couldn't sleep. These people included Jiang Luoshan, Xia Qianyu, Vajra, Silver Wing, Su Wani, the Mu family, and even Lin He. None of them wanted to sleep. Some of them even wanted to kill their way to Chu Feng's house. So much so that there were some among the beast race who couldn't sleep. For instance, the Black Yak was fuming in Mount Kunlun. He wanted to contact Chu Feng to help him capture someone, but in the end, that brat had lost contact and didn't even pay attention to him. Chapter 116. Early in the morning, Chu Feng was in high spirits after completing his breathing technique. He was in a good state of mind and body. After breakfast, he locked himself in his room and turned on his communicator, preparing for a big battle. After the communicator came to life, it was ringing incessantly. He couldn't look at it for a while, and could only toss it onto his bed. So many messages? Chu Feng felt guilty. After a few minutes, the ringing finally died down, but it would still ring from time to time. It was extremely noisy. Chu Feng turned it to silent mode and held it in his hand. He flipped through the messages one by one. The number of missed calls was filled to the brim. Almost everyone he knew had called him. Of course, there were even more unfamiliar numbers. As for the messages, it was probably enough for him to read for an entire morning. Chu Feng braced himself and started with his childhood friends and classmates. He had no choice but to reply. Comparatively speaking, this group of people was relatively safe and wouldn't be a threat to him. Lunatic, I finally got in touch with you. Are you trying to scare us to death? How did you become the main character of the Demon Ox Great Sage? Heavens, this is like a fantasy story. Oh right, what's your relationship with Luoshan? Tell me quickly, the flames of gossip in my heart can burn the 9 heavens and 10 earths. This was a childhood friend, and his voice was so loud that Chu Feng had no choice but to explain patiently. Next was his university classmate Su Lingxi. She was a very handsome beauty, but now she had also become incomparably gossipy. She asked all kinds of questions and said, Chu Feng, have you been transmigrated by someone's soul? This isn't your style at all. Tell me, what exactly happened? Then came his high school classmates and neighbors' children. They were bombarding him with questions on all kinds of topics. Chu Feng was about to go crazy. Who said these acquaintances were not powerful? They were boundless and terrifying. He was bombarded with so many questions that he almost covered his head and scurried away like a rat. The most infuriating was a rival from his university days, who had pursued Linoy together with him. He was gloating over his misfortune, but he was also jealous and envious. He laughed and said, Chu Feng, I heard that your child with someone else is about to be born. Haha. Congratulations, then I can continue to pursue Goddess Lin. Don't mess around. Go away. Chu Feng really wanted to beat someone up. There must be all kinds of messy news out there. For the entire morning, Chu Feng had been bombarded by a barrage of attacks. And these were just some of his acquaintances. The weapons of mass destruction, Jiang Luoshan, Linoy, and the others had not yet been involved. What is this damned old man doing? Chu Feng was infuriated because he saw Lu Tong bombarding him. Old man, we are so close to the Hollow Jade Temple. Why are you causing trouble? Lu Tong chuckled and said, Give me 100 signed posters later. My granddaughter wants to give it to someone. You have to help me with this. Chu Feng decisively ended the call. This damned old man was definitely doing this on purpose. He was deliberately causing trouble. While Chu Feng was having a splitting headache, many people were not feeling well either. They were extremely angry and had not slept the entire night. When they woke up in the morning, they all had panda eyes. King Kong had already smashed 3 dining tables. His nostrils were spewing white smoke and his mouth was on fire. He was very brave in Demon Ox the Great Sage, but he was too filthy. That shameful director made a godly cut scene. After he pressed the wild boar to the ground, a parrot flew over and shouted, Someone is bullying a pig. In the end, there was no result. After arriving here, the camera was no longer shot. Only the wild boar's squeal could be heard. There was no more filming. There was only sound and no camera. The parrot even cooperated and messed up the scene. It made one's imagination run wild. At this time, the keywords on the hot search list had changed from King Kong riding a pig to King Kong bullying a pig. King Kong's lungs were about to explode. He arranged for a plane to fly directly to Shuntian. He wanted to have a good talk with Zhou Tian. Silver Wing, who was also one of the 4 mutants, was very handsome in Demon Ox the Great Sage. Silver Wing was hard-pressed to find a worthy opponent, but he was also very depressed. Because in the beginning, he was just a foil to the later battles. He was used as a target to shoot arrows at him. It was too miserable. In this movie there were some overly exaggerated scenes, so some special effects were added. His wings were shot off by Angel Ox. At the same time, in Demon Ox the Great Sage, his character was the one who pursued Linoy but failed. His love turned into hatred. He walked alone to the opposite side of humanity, lonely and helpless. Now he was called the Emperor of Sadness on the internet. He was already very popular. With the addition of the movie, the number of searches for the Emperor of Sadness on the hot search list soared. It was comparable to King Kong bullying a pig. In Lin Yeyu's house, Su Wani was also very angry. The person she least wanted to see was on the silver screen at the same time as her. This time, she wanted to return to the silver screen and become famous on both sides of the Yangtze River. But in the end, her enemy became famous first. He had inexplicably become the big black horse. She was so angry that her face turned ashen. Cups and plates fell to the ground. Similarly, in the Mu family of celestial biology, a group of people's faces were as cold as frost. Every one of them wanted to kill their way to Shuntian and skin that director alive. That woman Su Wanqing didn't lie last time. Now we can be even more certain that Chu Feng is Angel Ox. He deserves to die. Although Demon Ox the Great Sage has been handled a little and the Mu family as a whole has not been vilified, it's still not very glorious. How can the scene of Mu being killed by Angel Ox be broadcasted? Are you trying to anger me to death? Mu's father, Mu Qinghe, had a malicious look in his eyes. At this moment, his murderous intent was surging. His hands were trembling. He wanted to kill someone on the spot. This is the country's warning to the corporate powers. Otherwise, the film would not have passed the trial. It's a warning to us, an old man said coldly. At this time, Chu Feng's fingers were trembling slightly. He clicked on some news reports. Even someone as mentally strong as him was about to go crazy. He couldn't take it anymore. Needless to say, the popularity of Demon Ox the Great Sage went without saying. Now everyone was talking about it. All kinds of sensational news were also spreading like wildfire. The headlines were shocking. For example, Chu Feng's university love. Seeing this headline, he felt a headache coming on. He really wanted to beat the reporter up. How could he expose such a thing? He clicked on it and found that these reporters were indeed resourceful. They had exposed some of his and Linoy's old stories. At the end of the article, they even lamented that the parents of the corporate powers had separated the affectionate couple. This was still considered good. Although it was groundless and exaggerated, there was still some basis to it. The following headlines made Chu Feng want to kill someone. For example, Angel Ox's illegitimate son. There was also Jiang Luoshan and Chu Feng's 3 days and 2 nights. There were all kinds of reports and all kinds of news. Chu Fenglei felt like he was going to be burnt to a crisp. This group of entertainment reporters was too wicked. This time, he couldn't dominate the rankings like Laughing Kong, Jiang Luoshan, and the others. It could be seen that he and those few people were shining brightly on the hot search list. Of course, this was only a small part of the news. More news reports were coming in continuously. For example, there was a headline, Chu Feng is Angel Ox. In this report there were all kinds of arguments. The logic was clear, and it was very convincing. Chu Feng was immediately slapped in the face. The world was in an uproar. This was an explosive morning. There was too much news. Chu Feng was bombarded with so many that his face was numb. So much so that when his communicator vibrated, he didn't even look at it. He answered the call immediately. Jiang Luoshan's screams could be heard from the other end. Chu Feng, Angel Ox, you bastard! Jiang Luoshan was furious. This was completely different from her usual shrewdness. She had lost her composure and was ready to fight to the death. Your child isn't mine. They were the ones who reported it. Chu Feng blurted out without thinking, defending himself. But with a swoosh, his hair stood on end. He quickly realized that he had been bombarded silly. How could he say something like that? Sure enough, from the other end of the communicator came a scream of extreme anger. Chu Feng quickly hung up. He didn't dare to talk to her, at least not now. On the other end of the communicator, Jiang Luoshan was so angry that she wanted to kill someone. She had a black circle on her head and hadn't slept for the whole night. She finally found the culprit and wanted to call him out to settle the score, but the call was cut off again. He's Angel Ox. He really is Angel Ox? It's true. Jiang Luoshan mumbled. Although she had already guessed it, she was still shocked after all the evidence was presented. She thought of many things. At the same time, she couldn't take it anymore. The more that person's identity was exposed, the angrier she became. On this day, the queen of the charts screamed non-stop. It was a noisy morning. To Chu Feng it was too painful. He was about to explode. The 2 blockbusters had both broken past box office record. The figures were terrifying. Finally, on the first day, Demon Ox the Great Sage took the lead, successfully dominating the charts and shocking the industry. Many famous directors and actors were stunned. That was just a low-budget production. It was mainly filmed in secret, but it was so popular. It was heaven-defying. Let's use public opinion to suppress them. The people of Doomsday Rising could no longer sit still. From the investors to the directors to the actors, they all took action to promote the show. For example, a heavenly star stood up and said disdainfully, "A certain show is crudely produced. The early hype is strong, but it's definitely not strong enough. Who are the main actors? They're all unorthodox. They don't have the cultivation and quality of a professional actor. What is art? Do they understand? What is quality? Can they show it? I hope everyone can see the work of a true artist and support Doomsday Rising." Obviously, such a high-profile person was the easiest to be criticized, even if he was a heavenly star. Many people on the internet cursed, mocking him for not being able to eat the grape. How could those celebrities be considered artists? They were too full of themselves. Of course, the heavenly star had already expected this. They just wanted to set up a target. Next, it was time for all sorts of film critics and critics to take the stage. Many celebrities gave one-sided comments, all of them slandering Demon Ox the Great Sage. The celebrity effect was very scary. One could choose not to believe a heavenly star, but if a large group of famous people jumped out, they could indeed sway public opinion. Following that, the stars of Doomsday Rising all stood up to express their opinions. A certain heavenly queen bluntly said, "A third-rate doomsday drama produced by a small studio. Other than hype, what else can it do? It's all trash, it's dirty to the eyes." Zhou Etienne, Du Huijin, Yi Qingru, and the others were all furious. There were many people who liked this drama, and many of them cursed her. Even if there was a celebrity effect to slander Demon Ox the Great Sage, it was impossible to completely brainwash everyone. Chu Feng couldn't hold it in. Even though he was in the eye of the storm, he used his public platform to post a message. "Third-rate heavenly queen, despicable." This was like the release of a nuclear weapon. It caused a huge uproar and directly caused the internet to explode. He still dared to show his face at such a critical juncture, naturally causing waves. Now that there were reports of him everywhere, it was impossible not to cause a heated discussion. At the same time, the number of followers on his public platform skyrocketed, from a small number to a shocking number. That heavenly queen was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood, threatening to sue Chu Feng for insulting her. "TSK, you still have the nerve to say that others are insulting you? Take a look at yourself first." Many people left comments. After sending the message, Chu Feng decisively went offline and ignored them. He was just angry for a moment. Su Wani finally couldn't hold it in and jumped out to post on social media, saying, "Some people are really uncultured, randomly hurling insults at others. Such people should be banned immediately. Who would watch such a work? Too much publicity in the early stages will inevitably cause a Waterloo in the later stages." This was because she saw that the celebrity effect was working. All kinds of defamation were very successful, and many people were shaken. Some people felt that the film might really be a bit shoddy. The original cast of Doomsday Rising believed that Demon Ox the Great Sage would most likely suffer a great fall in the box office. Chu Feng no longer paid attention to these people and focused on dealing with all kinds of messages. Not long after, the Black Yak contacted him again. He carefully checked the missed calls and found that he had called 17 or 18 times in just one night. Chu Feng was puzzled. Didn't the Black Yak sleep? As soon as the call was connected, the Black Yak's roar came through. "Brat, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? How dare you play the uncontactable game with me? Where did you go last night? Don't tell me you really accompanied that woman to relieve her pregnancy?" Chu Feng was sweating profusely. "Black Boss, what nonsense are you spouting? Why are you paying attention to such useless gossip? Didn't you sleep? You already have big black eyes, now you're even darker." Moo. The Black Yak was so angry that he almost flipped out. Chu Feng hurriedly put the communicator far away and shouted, "Lower your voice. My communicator is almost broken because of you. I can feel Mount Kunlun shaking. Take it easy, don't collapse Two Peaks. Brat, I've seen that film. It really pissed me off. Aren't you in Shuntian? Go and kidnap that lousy director Zhou Etienne for me. I want to skin him alive." "Wait a moment, how did you see it? Aren't you in Mount Kunlun?" Chu Feng was bewildered. Where did the Black Yak go to watch a film? The Black Yak said disdainfully, "We've booked the biggest cinema in the nearest town to Mount Kunlun. Of course we can see it." Chu Feng was somewhat dumbfounded. A group of great demons had gone to book the entire cinema? Sure enough, not long after, an explosive news shook the entire network. Even the foreigners were dumbfounded. At the foot of Mount Kunlun, in the nearest town, in a cinema, sat row after row of great demons. All of them were of the beast race. Some of them had wide mouths and sharp fangs, some had resplendent golden wings, some had dragon-like tails, and some had huge horns on their heads. Each one was more ferocious and terrifying than the last. The bull demon sat firmly in the center of the front row. It wasn't because he was the strongest, but because he had basked in the light of the demon Ox the Great Sage and was chosen by the group of demons to sit there. In an instant, the whole world was boiling with excitement. Chapter 117. At this time, the group of film critics and celebrities from the media were all dumbfounded. Was the movie they had been working so hard to discredit after receiving money from Demon Ox the Great Sage? Was it going to break through the heavens? So many of them had joined forces to give the movie the worst reviews and guide the public's opinion. But now it was all for naught. Any one of these great fiendish demons could cause a huge earthquake if they were to jump out. Their destructive power was boundless, and at the very least, they were not weaker than the Grey Wolf King. They had all gathered together to watch the movie. This was like a level 19 hurricane sweeping through the world. No one could stop it. The film critics and celebrities were on the verge of tears. This time, they were going to slap themselves in the face. It was not hard to imagine that Demon Ox the Great Sage was going to be extremely popular. Who would believe that a group of demons had reserved a movie theater? However, there was evidence. The person in charge of the theater was trembling as he risked his life to capture this scene. Those demons only glanced at him and did not say anything because they did not care. The internet exploded and everyone was in an uproar. People could not believe it. Oh my God, Demon Ox the Great Sage is so influential. Did you guys see it? Even the Beast Kings are going to watch the movie. Its charm is limitless. How strange, how inconceivable. What kind of magic does this movie have? A group of Beast Kings has reserved a movie theater. That's scary. No, I haven't seen this movie yet. I have to book a ticket and watch it. Even the beast races are watching it. How can a human like me not watch it? Everyone was stunned. Then, like boiling water, all over the world, there was endless heated discussion. The director of Doomsday Rising was crying. He had actually suffered such a blow at the critical moment. There was no way out. The big stars of the movie were also dumbfounded. How was this possible? This was a group of Beast Kings. Any one of them could massacre an entire city. They were all monstrously terrifying existences. In the end, this group of demons had actually reserved a movie theater just to watch Demon Ox the Great Sage? Some of the stars were cursing. For example, a certain Heavenly King-level male star was disdainfully saying that Demon Ox the Great Sage was crudely made and that the quality of the actors was too low. Now, he was completely anxious. It was obvious that Demon Bull the Great Sage was going to experience an explosive increase in the box office. This was a huge slap to his face. That female celebrity, who had once been ridiculed by Chu Feng as a third-rate diva, was even more flustered and exasperated. She spoke without thinking, writing on her social media account, "It's definitely a publicity stunt. What do a bunch of beasts know?" Her manager's face was pale with fright. He trembled as he reminded her that it was a group of Beast Kings. In the end, the Heavenly Queen's fingers trembled as she deleted her own comment, never daring to show her face again. Suwani felt very hurt. There was a mouthful of pent-up blood in her chest. She wanted to spit it out but couldn't. It was really too uncomfortable. She had always wanted to kill Chu Feng, but in the end she found out that he was still alive and well, and had even run over to compete with her in the film industry, miraculously suppressing Doomsday Rising, which made her very hurt. On the second day, the box office of Demon Ox the Great Sage skyrocketed. It was even more terrifying than the first day. It could be said to be a miracle. This time, it had completely left the second place, Doomsday Rising, in the dust, and not just by a little, but by a large margin. On the third day, the box office of Demon Ox the Great Sage was still growing. This completely defied common sense in the film industry. How could it keep growing? It should be decreasing. Doomsday Rising was very standard. Its box office was decreasing day by day. Is it trying to defy the heavens? Many people were astonished. Demon Ox the Great Sage was destined to create a box office legend, crushing all of its competitors with an unstoppable momentum. On the internet, the film critics gave Demon Ox the Great Sage extremely low marks. They smeared it to the limit, but this couldn't stop the passion of the people. Everyone went to watch the movie. Could be said that the more the film was smeared, the more it became popular. In the end, it was so black that it was shining. The comments of those celebrities and film critics were completely useless. Eventually, some people didn't dare to go against their conscience and stood out, saying that this was a phenomenal film that surpassed all the previous ones. This is a milestone record. In groups of 2s and 3s, famous people stood out and said this. However, the people didn't appreciate it at all. What were you guys doing earlier? They all had foul breath and were cursing Demon Ox the Great Sage to death at the start. Now you want to reverse the situation? It was too late. Demon Ox the Great Sage was like a dark horse, leaving everyone else in its wake. With an unstoppable momentum, it broke all kinds of records and became the biggest box office miracle in history. Not to mention the lead actor, Chu Feng, even Yi Qingru and Chen Luoyan were popular. Because of their good image and ample screen time, they were the center of attention. Even Du Huijin and Ouyang Qing were well known by the people. They were affectionately called clairvoyant and clairaudient. These two acted as themselves in the movie. The Heavenly King and Empress, as well as Su Wani, had their predictions come true. They didn't mention a certain film that was poorly made and would meet its Waterloo. However, it wasn't Demon Ox the Great Sage, but Doomsday Rising. The real audience commented that Demon Ox the Great Sage was a film with a conscience. It was filmed in a realistic and cruel manner, recreating the horrifying scenes of the war. 2,000 to 3,000 mutants died tragically. It was too shocking. This made the people realize that the battle at Taihang Mountain had indeed stirred the blood in people's hearts. They had to fight, they had to rise. As for Doomsday Rising, in comparison, it was too gaudy. Other than the stars, there was nothing else. The description of the end of the world was too pale, and it didn't have much appeal. Compared to Demon Ox the Great Sage, its tragedy was childish. It couldn't be more fake. If there was no comparison, people might think that this was a good special effects blockbuster. However, it really shouldn't have been released at the same time as Demon Ox the Great Sage. The two shared the same theme, but the depth and viewability of the two were not on the same level. Doomsday Rising met its Waterloo. From the director to the Heavenly King and Empress to Su Wani, they all wanted to find a hole to hide in. All the sarcastic comments from before were now directed at them. Linoy and Chu Feng were talking on the phone. They were calm and gentle, and there was no killing intent. This was because Linoy had already known that he was Angel Ox. After the end of the Battle of Taihang Mountain, on the night when the White Snake threatened to massacre the entire city, Lin Naoi went to visit him under such urgent circumstances. She even prepared a plane for him, intending to send him to safety. That night, Chu Feng was very touched. It was also on that night that Lin Naoi guessed that he was Angel Ox. She had always been smart, and it could be said that she was the first person to guess Chu Feng's identity. However, at that time, the two of them had a tacit understanding. That night, neither of them pointed it out. Chu Feng, you have to be careful. The Mu family knows everything, and they won't let this go easily. You have to be careful, Linoy reminded him. This time, Demon Ox the Great Sage was released, and there were too many rumors about Chu Feng. For example, there were even rumors about him and Jiang Luoshan's pregnancy. Other than that, there were also many rumors about Linoy. However, Linoy did not mention them. She simply ignored them. I know, I will be careful, Chu Feng replied. Did you kill the Ash Wolf? In the end, Linoy asked in a simple and direct manner. She did not try to hide anything. Yes, Chu Feng replied. Linoy was very serious. She analyzed the situation for him and said, The Mu family still does not know about this. Once they do, they will be a little afraid. After all, you are avenging the victims of the Mu family. But there is one thing that is not good. Once this matter is exposed, the beasts will be very hostile toward you. You have to know that there must be a terrifying beast king behind the beast riots that happened on the Yungue Plateau, Shu Land, and Shuntian. The ash wolf and the ash wolf were used by that beast king. Chu Feng nodded. He understood this logic. These 2 days, the Celestial Biology Conference was not peaceful. Both the Mu family and the Lin family felt the same. Chu Feng is Angel Ox? Some members of the Lin family sat together and whispered to each other. This was beyond their expectations. Back then, because of Linoi, some of them had sent people to collect Chu Feng's hair and conduct tests to confirm that he could not become a mutant. Who would have thought that he would be unaffected and become the famous Angel Ox? This young man is interesting. We have underestimated him. According to the latest news, he is extremely powerful. In the future, he might even be able to fight against a beast king. Oh, who was the one who blocked him and didn't let him get close to Lin Naoi? This is nothing. We are members of the Celestial Biology Conference and have our own pride. No matter who it is, as long as they do not meet our requirements, they will not enter our site. The key lies in Lin Naoi. I feel that she is very intelligent and has long since figured out who Chu Feng is. The Mu family, on the other hand, was filled with killing intent. As members of the Celestial Biology Conference, they possessed extraordinary power. It's better to use a soft knife in the face of a storm, a middle-aged man from the Mu family said coldly. Mu Qinghe, the father of the Mu family, said, "Call Mu Tian back. His younger brother is dead, but he still roams the mountains and rivers day and night, visiting friends and searching for saints. It's time for him to take action." Mu Tian was his eldest son. 21 years ago, when he was still a child, he was fortunate enough to eat a mutant fruit on a small tree on Mount Hua. After so many years, his strength was unfathomable. Bodhi biogenetics was also in a state of unrest. In the Jiang family, an elder approached Jiang Luotian with a smile on his face, asking her what was her relationship with Angel Ox. Jiang Luotian's smile was originally very sweet, but after hearing the question, her face suddenly turned pale. The speed at which she changed her expression was too fast. "Luotian, didn't the outside world say that you have a good relationship with him? What's going on?" The elder was puzzled. Someone quickly pulled on the sleeves of the elder, reminding him not to ask any more questions. Didn't he see Jiang Luotian's dark face? For the national goddess to have such a dark expression, the situation must be very complicated. The outside world was saying that she was having a miscarriage and that she had an unspeakable story with Angel Ox. These days, the queen of the charts was invincible on the hot search list. She had been holding her breath and was ready to explode at any time. Demon Ox the Great Sage was still on the hot search list. Demon Bull the Great Sage made me cry. A human accidentally ate a mutant fruit and gained the face of Demon Ox. It was irreversible and he suffered a lot. He was not accepted by the human race and lived a lonely and miserable life. No one understood him and regarded him as an alien. But he still carried out his duty as a member of the human race and fought against the alien races until the last drop of his blood flowed. How pitiful. You girls are so emotional. What I see is passion and passion. Angel Ox is not pitiful. He didn't feel sorry for himself either. He kept moving forward bravely. In the movie, his first love, Linoi, and his confidant, Jiang Luotian, met him but didn't know each other. How could he not be pitiful? In the end, he died alone in battle. They didn't know who he was until many years later. Isn't that pitiful? You're too cold-blooded. A couple was arguing. Who said he died in battle? He only set foot on the path of no return. Just wait and see, there will definitely be a sequel in the future. Sigh, I'm too immersed in the role. I feel that Chu Feng has brought Angel Ox to life. It's so realistic. In reality, Demon Ox the Great Sage's popularity had shocked everyone. Not only did it break all kinds of box office records within 10 days, but it also received good reviews overseas. Movies from the East were rarely popular in the West, but Demon Ox the Great Sage defied common sense and crushed all the other blockbusters of the same genre. The West had also produced a few inspirational movies to inspire people in the current environment, but none of them could compete with Demon Bull the Great Sage. Even the demons from Mount Kunlun went to watch it. Caused a sensation all over the world. Even the West was intrigued and fell in love with it. As time passed, more and more evidence pointed to Angel Ox being Chu Feng. This caused a huge uproar. Chu Feng, that piece of metal you brought back can no longer be considered silver. It's too hard, much stronger than all other materials. Lu Tong informed Chu Feng that the results of the laboratory's analysis were out. That piece of metal was extremely valuable. In fact, the Hollow Jade Temple had already sent many mutants to the silver mine to understand the situation before deciding whether or not to act. Apart from that, Lu Tong also informed him of another piece of news. The situation has been strange lately. Mysterious giant trees have appeared everywhere. These things really can't go extinct. Plants have also started appearing in outer space. It's giving me a headache. Chu Feng was shocked. Mount Lu was one of the most famous mountains in the world. In ancient times, there were 3 mountains and 5 sacred peaks. Mount Lu was one of them and held a very high status. There used to be fierce battles between the beast kings here, but they all retreated in the end. Now there was an ancient tree that towered into the sky. Its branches and leaves were luxuriant, and it accompanied the waterfall of Mount Lu. At this time, 4 peerless experts appeared in front of the waterfall and gazed at the ancient tree. Among them was an old ape, a golden-winged roc, and 2 red-crowned cranes. They were all peerless experts of the beast race. They occupied Mount Song, Mount Hua, and Mount Shu respectively and had already established their own sections. Dao friend, please gift us some transformation fruits. The old ape, the golden-winged roc, and the red-crowned cranes bowed in unison. They were very courteous as they requested a type of fruit from the ancient tree beside the waterfall. Sure. The ancient tree actually opened its mouth and shook its branches. Dozens of glistening yellow fruits fell from its branches as a gift. Many thanks, Dao friend. The peerless experts bowed in unison and left the place. Along the way, they each swallowed a fruit. As a result, their bodies began to crackle and emit a dazzling radiance. In the end, all of them had transformed into humans. The transformation fruits allowed them to take human form. Our descendants can also transform. They still had a lot of transformation fruits in their hands and were preparing to bring them back for their clansmen to transform. Oh, it's time to enter the capital and have a chat with the upper echelons of the human race. We'll meet at Shuntian in 3 days. With that said, the beast race experts parted ways. 3 days later, at Shuntian, the arrival of the Beast King at the capital shook the world. Chapter 118. The Elder Ape, the Golden-Winged Roc, and the Immortal Crane entered Shuntian together, causing a huge uproar. Everyone was shaken. Many people were stupefied. Was the arrival of the Beast Kings a blessing or a curse? On this day, many people felt stifled and worried about something. The Beast Kings had entered Shuntian. Once they unleashed their ferocious nature, the consequences would be boundlessly terrifying. Everyone was anxious, not knowing what the Beast Kings were planning. Would it be too late to dispatch experts? I hope the experts from the 8 Visions Temple, Hollow Jade Temple, and Roaming Jade Temple arrive in time. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. Someone muttered. The impact of this matter was too great. A single mishap could result in a world-shaking calamity. There were too many humans living in Shuntian. Be it on the internet or in real life, everyone felt their hearts sink. Such a major event was bound to have far-reaching consequences. However, this day was strangely tranquil. There was no commotion because everyone felt stifled and was quietly waiting for the result. I think you guys are worrying too much. Xuantian's defense might not be the best in the country. The Beast Kings are huge and their characteristics are obvious. They can be monitored from afar. If they did not reach a tacit agreement, how could they let the Beast Kings enter the city? Some people analyzed and felt that there would not be any major calamity. However, the next piece of news caused people to feel uneasy. Oh my God, shocking news! The Beast Kings have taken human form and entered Shantian. This was like an earthquake, causing everyone to tremble in fear. If this was true, the consequences would be dire for the humans. Once the Beast Kings took human form, they would be able to enter and leave human society at will. At that time, who would be able to stop them if they wanted to attack? I don't think there will be any major calamity. After all, the immortal crane of Mount Shu is very friendly to humans. That elder ape is not a savage either. Someone expressed his opinion in a weak voice. However, he lacked confidence and could not be sure that there would be no calamity. 2 days later, the Beast Kings left Shantian. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when the news spread. The elder ape, the golden-winged roc, and the immortal crane not only represented themselves, but also the Beast Kings behind them. They negotiated with the humans and reached a consensus. It's said that humans and the beast race will be able to coexist peacefully in the future. There will no longer be a need to worry about beast tides. Someone immediately leaked the news, causing a sensation. This was the news that everyone was looking forward to. Of course, the so-called peaceful coexistence was mainly for famous mountains that had owners. As for places that were still fighting, they might not necessarily abide by this agreement. In any case, this was great news, and everyone was celebrating it. These days, Chu Feng stayed in the Hollow Jade Temple and didn't go anywhere else. Because the influence of Demon Ox the Great Sage was too great, he was now the center of attention. He didn't want to be surrounded, and he was even more afraid of those entertainment reporters making up stories. He could only temporarily avoid the limelight and hide here to study fist technique. He had killed the Ash Wolf King, which was a great merit. As promised, Lu Tong brought him another Xing-Yi ancient fist scripture. The slightly yellowed scripture exuded the mottled aura of time. In this fist scripture there were things that Chu Feng was interested in. There were dragon forms, tiger forms, and monkey forms. He decided to thoroughly master the dragon form and tiger form. Back when Chun Hai was pursuing him under the orders of the Mu family, he had displayed the ultimate move of the dragon and tiger contending for hegemony. The 12 true forms of the Xing-Yi martial arts could be considered the quintessence of ancient martial arts. Even old fist masters who had practiced fist techniques for their entire lives would sigh in admiration. Roar! When Chu Feng unleashed the tiger's roar, Lu Tong's eyes widened. He cursed Chu Feng for being a freak. It had only been a few days, but he had already grasped the basic. 3 days later, Chu Feng let out a low roar. His left hand formed the dragon form, and his right the tiger form. They attacked together, breaking through the sound barrier in the training ground beneath the Hollow Jade Temple. Rumble, vaguely, a dragon and a tiger appeared in the air. Although they disappeared in an instant, the scene was still incomparably astonishing. Bang! The steel wall in front of him was forcefully pierced through. One had to know that the wall was 1 to 2 feet thick and was made of refined steel. However, it was easily torn apart by the combination of the dragon and tiger forms. It was as if the wall was made of paper and not steel. Brat, you're really a troublemaker. Do you want to tear down the training ground? Lu Tong was shocked. His eyelids were twitching. How many days had this brat been practicing the Xing-Yi martial arts? He was already so powerful. He slowly walked closer and observed carefully. he discovered that the entire steel wall was covered in cracks. He sighed. You've discovered the secret of the Xing-Yi martial arts. Yes. Chu Feng nodded. He had already grasped the demon ox fist, so it was much easier for him to practice the Xing-Yi martial art. When he practiced the dragon form and tiger form of the 12 true forms, he was able to produce the spiraling force. This force was very strange. It could even easily tear apart steel. Its power was unparalleled. Many old fist masters couldn't even grasp this secret for their entire lives. Yet, you managed to comprehend it in such a short time. Lu Tong sighed. The spiraling force was the secret of the Xing-Yi martial art. It was the foundation of the 12 true forms. Chu Feng was very happy. Studying ancient martial arts manuals was indeed very beneficial. He felt that he had gained a lot today. For you. Lu Tong passed a ring to Chu Feng. It was as white as jade, sparkling and translucent. Chu Feng didn't understand. What did he want a bracelet for? Lu Tong explained, this is the rare metal you brought back. It looks like silver, but it's not. It's many times harder than diamond, and its melting point is also extremely high. Of course, this was only a small piece. The larger piece was left for the laboratory, but it was still a token of appreciation to Chu Feng. I asked someone from the 8 Visions Temple to help you forge a diamond chakram. Lu Tong said. What? Chu Feng jumped in fright. According to the legends, the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord who resided in the 8 Visions Temple had a diamond chakram. Could it be that the mutant organization established by the government, the 8 Visions Temple, had some sort of knack? Old man Lu Tong laughed and said, What are you thinking? I only helped you forge a defensive bracelet. It can be used as a sharp weapon at a critical moment. Chu Feng glared at him, but he still happily put the bracelet on his wrist. He tried again and again, but no matter how hard he squeezed, he couldn't leave a mark. He then used the spiraling energy of the Xing and Yi martial arts to destroy the bracelet. Lu Tong said in a serious tone, Don't try anymore. This thing is ridiculously hard. There's nothing stronger than it. Furthermore, we used the most advanced forging methods and hammered it hundreds and thousands of times before finally forging it into this weapon. It can be considered as a treasure-grade cold weapon. Chu Feng smiled to express his gratitude. For the next few days, apart from returning home occasionally, Chu Feng spent the rest of his time in the Hollow Jade Temple. He studied the true forms of the Xing and Yi martial arts, especially the dragon and tiger forms. During this period, Yi Qingru, Chen Luoyan, Qian Liyuan and the Clairaudient often came here to practice. They were all dumbfounded and scared out of their wits after seeing Chu Feng tear apart several feet of steel with ease. Boss, you're too abnormal. Are you still human? I feel that if you continue like this, you'll be able to fight against a real beast king. Ouyang Qing exclaimed. These people were also trying their best to improve themselves. The Hollow Jade Temple had given them an ancient technique that contained a portion of the breathing technique. This allowed their strength to increase rapidly. As mutants, practicing ancient martial arts could stimulate their evolution. The benefits were incomparably great. On this day, old man Lu Tong came again and shouted for Chu Feng to stop. Stop practicing, you're about to become a martial maniac. Am I not doing this to avoid the limelight? Chu Feng mumbled. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stayed in hiding. No need to hide, there's someone even more famous than you out there, Lu Tong said. What's going on? Chu Feng was astonished. At this time, Ouyang Qing, Yi Qingru and the others also arrived. The clairvoyant Du Huijin said, Boss, you really don't pay attention to what's going on outside. You're wholeheartedly focused on practicing the form and will scripture. Something big has happened, the sky outside is about to turn upside down. It's so lively. A group of beast kings have entered Shuntian, Ouyang Qing said. Chu Feng was puzzled. A few days ago, several beast kings had come. Now, more beast kings had arrived. It wasn't strange at all. Yi Qingru added, "It's the descendants of beast kings. All of them have transformed and are roaming the human world. Their influence is huge." Chu Feng was taken aback. Even the beast race had begun to transform? Not only the beast kings, even their descendants had done so. Their origins are not small? Chu Feng asked. Not only are they not small, they're ridiculously big. You'll be shocked if I tell you a few things. The clairaudient Ouyang Qing sighed, the #1 expert of the Mongolian steppe, the Silver Moon Wolf King. Its descendant has arrived. He has taken the form of a silver-haired young man and is extremely popular. He then continued, the elder ape of the Great Woods Temple is undoubtedly powerful and is known as a peerless beast king. One of its descendants has also appeared in Shuntian. Even Chen Luoyan opened his mouth. There's an even more powerful one that even the elder ape of the Great Woods Temple admitted his inferiority. That is the Peacock King. It's said that it once wanted to conquer the pilgrimage grounds. Even its descendant has arrived. Chu Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the first time he had heard of a terrifying king-level entity coveting the pilgrimage grounds. Could it be that it was the Peacock King who had driven the Ash Wolf King and the Falcon King? He had his suspicions, but he couldn't be sure. There was more than one Beast King who had designs on the pilgrimage grounds. Chu Feng asked, "Did they cause a huge commotion?" "From what you're saying, these Beast Kings are very popular after taking human form." "Sigh, after taking human form, each man is more handsome than the last, and each woman is more beautiful than the last. How enviable!" The clairvoyant was extremely jealous. As the descendants of Beast Kings, it's impossible for them to not cause a commotion after entering human society. Even the nobles and celebrities are willing to make friends with them. Is it really that shocking? Chu Feng was astonished. The clairaudient Ouyang Qing sighed. These young beast kings are indeed extraordinary. Add to that the fact that each and every one of them has a beast king behind them. Do you think anyone would not want to make friends with them? The news they brought shocked Chu Feng. During his seclusion, the outside world had been abuzz. The descendants of beast kings entering human society had attracted the attention of all parties. There's a banquet tonight and quite a number of people have been invited to welcome the descendants of beast kings. Boss, are you going? Ouyang Qing asked. Not really. Chu Feng shook his head, unwilling to go. Lu Tong spoke, you should go. It's good to make friends with the descendants of beast kings. Who knows, we might come into contact with them in the future. Who's going? Chu Feng asked. There's quite a number of people, such as celebrities, socialites, and people from major powers. Among them were people from the Preaching Research Institute, Bodhi Genetics, Tongu Alliance, Extraterrestrial Research Institute, and Celestial Biology. Chu Feng was dumbfounded. All these major powers were going to attend? Yi Qingru sighed. There's nothing we can do about it. The origins of these beast kings are too great. Every one of them has a beast king behind them, which represents their terrifying strength. Many people want to make friends with them and borrow their strength in the future. Lu Tong reminded, remember, if you're happy, stay for a while. If you're not used to it, leave. Try not to cause trouble. He hoped that Chu Feng and the others could make friends with some beast king heirs. It would be beneficial for them in the future. Very well. Chu Feng nodded. That night, all kinds of luxury cars arrived in front of the Qilin building. The people getting off the cars were all people of great influence. There were famous female stars, as well as the upper echelons of financial groups. Chapter 119. Yi Qingru, Du Huaijin, Ouyang Qing, and the others were all in formal attire, all prepared for this banquet. Boss, you have to thank Sister Qingru for helping you pick out your clothes. Ouyang Qing smiled. Chu Feng nodded. There was nothing to resist. Since he was attending the banquet, he had to dress formally. Going against the style of the banquet was just asking for trouble. Ding! The elevator reached the top floor and the group walked out. The security here was very strict. Those people looked carefully at their invitations and compared them. He couldn't go to the villa in the outskirts anymore, since there were exotic beasts roaming about. This place was the best choice. The 18th floor of the Chilan Tower was decorated with exquisite decorations. It could be said to be magnificent and extremely luxurious. The venue was spacious and the crystal lights were meticulously arranged, giving the place a very grand atmosphere. The guests' laughter could be heard in the splendid banquet hall. The atmosphere was very lively. Many people had already arrived, so much so that it was a bit crowded. These people were standing in groups of 3 to 5, chatting enthusiastically. "Isn't that the third-rate Heavenly Queen?" Du Huijin's sharp eyes immediately spotted the Heavenly Queen. Not long ago, she had ridiculed Demon Ox the Great Sage and ended up being slapped in the face. She was even crowned third-rate by Chu Feng. There were many familiar faces. Some of them were famous female stars. Even if they hadn't seen them in person, they had at least seen them on the screen. Some of them had been invited to socialize with the guests. There are so many important people here. Yi Qingru was very familiar with this kind of occasion. Like a fish in water, she recognized some of the higher-ups of the corporations. "Look, even Lin Yeyu is here," she reminded Chu Feng. An important figure of celestial biology had also come. He was Linoy's uncle. It was obvious that Lin Yeyu was in high spirits. He was standing with some people and laughing from time to time. It was a very harmonious scene. Chu Feng didn't pay him much attention. Instead, he looked at the girl beside him. She had a good figure and was wearing a red evening gown, which made her look even more enchanting. Obviously, Suwani was very sensitive. She had already noticed Chu Feng. Now that he was looking at her, a bright light shone in her eyes. Without saying anything, she slowly turned around. "Hey, aren't you Chu Feng? Angel Ox, I didn't expect to meet you here. Quick, let's take a photo together." At this moment, 2 little girls ran over. They looked to be in their teens and were very excited when they saw Chu Feng, blinking their big eyes. "Boss, good luck to you. We're going to look at the beauties." Du Huijin and Ouyang Qing didn't have any sense of loyalty. They turned around and ran, blending into the crowd. Yi Qingruo's smile was brilliant. She glanced back with a smile and gracefully left, no longer caring about this place. Chen Luoyan spread his hands, indicating his helplessness. Then, he too disappeared into the crowd. Chu Feng had no choice but to take a photo with the two of them. However, before he could escape, a few more people came over. They were very curious about him. Even though they had never seen him before, they still went up to talk to him. "Brother Chu, what's your relationship with Jiang Luoshan?" a young man asked with a smile. "I saw that Jiang Luoshan is here too. She's not far from here." The little girl who asked for a photo pointed into the distance. Chu Feng regretted coming here. He reckoned that there would be trouble. "Chu Feng." At this moment, an unfamiliar voice was heard. It was a man with a wine glass in his hand. He was very handsome and looked to be about 26 or 27 years old. "You are." Chu Feng didn't know who he was. This person was very calm. He walked over slowly. There was a sense of sophistication in his handsomeness. It was obvious that he was not an ordinary person. There was actually a vertical line between his eyebrows. It was very strange. This also added a strange charm to him. "I am Mu Tian, Mu's brother." He was very direct, introducing himself as such. It was obvious that he was a calm and collected person. When he saw Chu Feng, he didn't hide anything and told him who he was. Chu Feng's pupils shrank. This was Mu's brother? He had become a mutant 21 years ago. It was said that his strength was unfathomable. Who would have thought that they would meet under such circumstances? Mu Tian was indeed extraordinary. He was calm and steady. On his handsome face, The vertical line between his eyebrows seemed to be permeating with a strange power, making him look very mysterious. You did well in the Battle of Taihang Mountain. I personally admire you. However, you killed my brother Mu. This is a debt that I cannot settle. Mu Tian shook his head and said, I hope there is a way to settle it. He smiled and patted Chu Feng's shoulder. Then he left. Chu Feng was surprised. This Mu Tian was not a simple man. This man acted as if he was nothing. He only said a few words to Chu Feng and did not seem to have any intention of making things difficult for him. Who is he? Mu Tian? Is he that terrifying young man from celestial biology who is shrouded in mist and divine halo? It is said that he killed a mad elephant with his bare hands when he was a teenager. It's him. Until now, we still haven't figured out his background. I can only describe him as unfathomable. Nearby, two people were whispering about Mu Tian. Chu Feng discovered that there were a few outstanding young men surrounded by a large crowd. They were like stars surrounding the moon. He reckoned that they were most likely the descendants of beast kings who had already taken human form. This made him sigh with emotion. The rise of the beast race was too rapid. He didn't go over to them. Instead, he picked up a cup of wine and some food. He then walked towards a more secluded area, not wanting to join in the fun. Someone else had the same goal as him and was also quite low-key. He walked over and sat beside him. Are you Chu Feng? And you are? Chu Feng was surprised. It was a silver-haired young man who stood out from the crowd. He was excessively handsome, far surpassing the average human male. His eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were full of spirit. This was not a gentle beauty but a masculine aura. Coupled with his long silver hair, it was impossible for him not to attract attention. You can call me by Chuan. The silver-haired man introduced himself with a smile. Although his smile was radiant, there was also an oppressive aura about him. He was absolutely powerful. However, he controlled his strength well and hid it within his body. I come from the Mongolian steppe, Bai Chuan said. Chu Feng's heart trembled. He suddenly thought of a certain beast king, the Silver Moon Wolf King. This beast king was known as the #1 expert of the beast race in the northern steppe. He was invincible and had killed everyone to submit. He was a peerless beast king. The Silver Moon Wolf King is my grandfather. Bai Chuan smiled without hiding anything. It's an honor to meet you, Chu Feng replied politely. In truth, he really didn't know how to deal with this beast race expert. He didn't know what the latter's objective was, especially since he had killed the Ash Wolf King. If the other party were to find out, he would probably view him as an enemy. After all, they were both from the wolf race. Bai Chuan's eyes were burning with passion. Don't be nervous, I have no evil intentions. I really like your movie. I've watched Demon Ox the Great Sage 3 times, and I'm going to watch it a 4th time when I get back. This stunned Chu Feng. It was completely different from what he had imagined. On his way here, he had always felt that the Beast King's heirs would be arrogant and difficult to get along with. Who would have thought that the first beast race expert he met would actually admire him so much? I'm very serious. I'm not joking. If there's an opportunity, we might be able to cooperate and shoot an even more majestic epic movie. Of course, we can't be too hostile towards other races in the film. We must have more depth, and the battles must be completely realistic. Only then will it be hot-blooded and exciting. Bai Chuan was very engrossed. His silver hair was draped over his shoulders, and his eyes were resplendent. His masculine aura was flourishing and suffused with a power that could cause one's heart to tremble. He talked incessantly as he discussed his ideas with Chu Feng. Chu Feng felt that it was too strange. A beast race expert wanted to cooperate with him in a movie? It was too strange. However, he couldn't refuse this kind of goodwill. He was also very serious as he conversed with the other party and shared his views. Haha, Brother Chu, you're too much to my liking. These ideas are great. It seems we will be able to cooperate happily in the future. Chu Feng asked him why he was so insistent on shooting a movie. It can also be considered a kind of cultivation. Bai Chuan told him that they had come to human society to gain experience. They wanted to blend in and experience the various tastes of life. He was very fond of Demon Ox the Great Sage, so he wanted to find a breakthrough in this aspect. You humans are too rich in activities and all kinds of knowledge. Thoroughly integrating them can also be considered a kind of tempering of the heart. Bai Chuan spoke frankly. Many people cast sidelong glances in this direction. That was because Bai Chuan's temperament was too extraordinary. His silver hair was flowing with luster, and there seemed to be a furnace hidden within his body, suffused with terrifying power. Bai Chuan immediately stood up and said, "Forget it, I'm leaving. Let's contact each other later. To tell the truth, I don't like such occasions. Our wolf race is rough, unrestrained, and wild. I'm not used to such a place with so many rules." Finally, someone recognized him. Some of the corporate higher-ups walked over with warm smiles and conversed with the Silvermoon Wolf King's descendant. Bai Chuan dealt with them but left quickly in the end. Many people recognized Chu Feng, but they wouldn't run over to take a picture with him like the two young girls. These people were very old and had extraordinary backgrounds. They simply didn't care about such things. Hence, Chu Feng was happy to have some peace and quiet. "Boss, who was that just now? Is he the Silvermoon Wolf King's descendant?" Ouyang Qing ran over in astonishment. Yi Qingru and the others also came over, expressing their astonishment. Those corporate bigshots didn't even have the chance to chat with Bai Chuan, yet Chu Feng was able to converse with him. "Just a coincidence," Chu Feng replied. He looked up into the distance and felt a wave of hostility. That was because his divine instincts were too sharp. Su Wani, Mu Tian, and a few other outstanding young men were gathered in the center of the crowd. In fact, those people were also the center of the entire banquet, including some people with extraordinary statuses. They were all surrounding them. So much so that Chu Feng saw Jiang Luotian there, talking to an extremely beautiful lady. "The Beast King's descendant, they're here," Du Huijin whispered. The center of the banquet began to shift as the group of youths walked over. Their target was none other than Chu Feng's group. Chu Feng's heart sank. Su Wani and Mu Tian were over there, chatting with those people. Chu Feng didn't understand Mu Tian, but Su Wani definitely wouldn't say anything nice. The young man in the lead was extremely handsome. He possessed a head of purple hair that hung down to his waist. He was dressed in human evening attire, looking otherworldly and refined. He was even more beautiful than most beauties. This was a rare beauty. His name is Kong Sheng. He should be the Peacock King's descendant. Yi Qingru whispered into Chu Feng's ears. This caused Chu Feng's heart to tremble. The Peacock King was extremely terrifying. Even the elder ape of Mount Song admitted his inferiority. One could easily imagine how terrifying he was. The pilgrimage grounds was a place that humans had to fight for. It was impossible to give up, but the Peacock King dared to participate and had always wanted to seize it. It could be said that the Peacock King was an unrivaled king. Kong Sheng was too handsome. His long purple hair, demonic temperament, and slender body were too outstanding. Beside him were a man and a woman. The man had thick eyebrows and big eyes, exuding a heroic spirit and a strong physique. He's the descendant of the Cloud Leopard King. His name is Yun Fei. Yi Qingru informed. Apparently, she had taken a stroll around the banquet and learned a lot of valuable information. The woman beside him is called Miao Fei. I don't know her background, but she's definitely a descendant of the Beast King, Yi Qingru informed. The woman had short hair and was very beautiful. Her large eyes were like gems, emitting a faint green radiance. She was extremely bewitching and beautiful. Her name was Miao Fei. She got along well with Jiang Luoshan and chatted as they walked. The man slightly behind us is called Huang Shaoxian. He's very annoying, Yi Qingru whispered to Chu Feng. She didn't know the race of the last beast race member. Huang Shaoxian was perhaps the only beast race member with average looks. He didn't have any heroic spirit, let alone handsome looks. He was of average height, on the thin side, with a head of yellow hair and a sharp chin. His entire being was somewhat bewitching. His looks were not very pleasing to the eye. "So you're Angel Ox, Chu Feng?" Huang Shaoxian was the first to speak. The corners of his mouth curled up in a disdainful manner. Although his looks were average, he was very confident. "Yes," Chu Feng replied calmly. Naturally, there were many people in the vicinity. They were all clustered around a few youngsters, especially Kong Xing. He was the most valued among them. The upper echelons of the corporations were standing not far from him. Suwani was also there. She stood quite close to the group and revealed a faint smile. "I've heard so much about you. Let's have a good chat," Huang Shaoxian said. Although he had just begun to integrate into human society, he quickly adapted to it. He could even communicate with others without any problems. His eyes flickered as he took a few steps forward. He looked at Chu Feng and said, "I heard you killed many experts from various races in Demon Ox the Great Sage?" Chu Feng did not reply. He only stared at him. It was obvious that he was here to pick a fight. "I'm quite interested in you. Why don't we go out and have a private chat?" Huang Shaoxian looked at Chu Feng with a smile and a hint of disdain in his eyes. He had seen the movie of the battle at Mount Taihang. However, he did not care about Angel Ox's combat prowess. The clairaudient Ouyang Qing tried to smooth things over. "Forget it, let's just talk here. The purpose of this banquet is to make friends. There's no need to change places." He was afraid that the Beast King's heirs would lure Chu Feng out of the banquet and attack him in a secluded place. "Who do you think you are?" "I'm talking to Angel Ox. Who gave you the right to interrupt?" Huang Shaoxian's attitude changed very quickly. He was direct and cold, not leaving the other party any face. An awkward silence ensued. No one had expected him to be so domineering and impolite. "You've crossed the line." Chu Feng stepped forward. Ouyang Qing was standing up for him. How could he allow him to be humiliated? The clairvoyant Du Huijin was also furious. "Friend, this is a banquet. It's better for us to be friendly." "What a joke. I'm talking to Chu Feng. Do you think it's your turn to stand up for me?" At this point, Huang Shaoxian looked at the people present and said, "I want to know, who were the two people who were talking just now? Were they also invited by you?" Obviously, he was deliberately making things difficult for them. The Beast King's heirs did not come with good intentions. It was just that this Huang Shaoxian was the most tyrannical. The banquet's organizers wiped off their cold sweat. They did not expect this result. They did not want to make things difficult for the two, but they also could not afford to offend the Beast King's heirs. How boring. What kind of lousy banquet is this? Even cats and dogs can sneak in. Huang Shaoxian sneered. Although he was talking about Ouyang Qing and Du Huijin, his eyes were looking at Chu Feng. It was obvious that he was targeting him. Those with discerning eyes could see what was going on. At this time, Ouyang Qing and Du Huijin's faces were pale. They had never been humiliated like this before, not to mention in public. Chu Feng coldly said, "You said they are cats and dogs. Then who are you? What's your background?" This was tantamount to a confrontation. Obviously, Huang Shaoxian was of the beast race and was naturally a bird or beast in human form. Revealing his identity was tantamount to humiliation. "You!" Huang Shaoxian's eyes shot out beams of light as he stared at Chu Feng. Yi Qingru stepped forward and grabbed one of Chu Feng's arms, afraid that he would be rash and start a fight with the Beast King's heirs. She softly said, "Forget it." Huang Shaoxian suddenly laughed. His eyes shone with a faint golden light as he said, "It just so happens that I'm lacking a dance partner. Beauty, would you do me the honor?" He was smiling at Yi Qingru and waving at her. At this moment, Yi Qingru actually let go of Chu Feng's arm and walked over to him. Many people revealed strange expressions. Huang Xiaoxian's move was too overbearing, snatching Chu Feng's dance partner in front of everyone. "You are humiliating us. Qingru, come back." Chen Luoyan couldn't stand it anymore and shouted from behind. At first, Chu Feng was surprised, but his expression quickly changed. He lightly shouted, "Wake up!" In a split second, Yi Qingru stopped in her tracks. She seemed to be in a daze, then cried out in alarm and quickly retreated to Chu Feng's side. She stared at Huang Xiaoxian as if she had seen a ghost. "It's better if you come over." Huang Xiaoxian smiled, the faint golden light in his eyes becoming even brighter. Chu Feng knew that this person's spiritual energy was extremely powerful and could confuse people's minds. Chu Feng's killing intent pervaded the air as he blocked Yi Qingru behind him and pressed forward. This person was here to pick a fight and kept provoking him. How could Chu Feng back down? Chapter 120. Huang Xiaoxian's smile froze. His pupils constricted and his expression turned ugly. To think he would be warned like this. "So what if it's a human city? We're still honored guests," he said. Although he was angry in his heart, he still put on a smile and looked at everyone impudently. Now that all the races are living in peace, there's no need to differentiate between regions and cities. That would only make us appear narrow-minded. Su Wani spoke at the right time. She wore a smile and wore a red evening gown, accentuating her curvaceous figure. Her whole person was gorgeous and enchanting. This woman had indeed come out to cause trouble. Chu Feng glanced at her contemptuously and said, "Miss Su is graceful and magnanimous. Please dance with this Mr. Huang as an apology on our behalf." Su Wani's face stiffened and her smile disappeared. How could she dance with Huang Xiaoxian? What kind of race was he? She knew in her heart that he was a weasel, even if his grandfather was a beast king with terrifying strength. But if she were to dance with Huang Xiaoxian now, how would she be able to keep her face if word got out? After all, she was the daughter-in-law of the Lin family of celestial biology. Huang Xiaoxian smiled. He didn't mind dancing with a beauty, so he didn't say anything. Su Wani tactfully declined, saying, "I'm not feeling well. Moreover, it was that beautiful lady who offended Mr. Huang. I think it's better for her to dance with him as an apology." She pointed at Yi Qingru, trying to divert the trouble. Chu Feng sneered, "Ha, I saw you dance quite well just now. What, are you looking down on Mr. Huang?" Everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian with bewildered expressions. Su Wani's expression stiffened. She hated Chu Feng to the core. She hadn't expected him to react so quickly and drag her into this mess. Chu Feng continued, "That's not how peace comes about. He's already humiliating you, yet you're still smiling apologetically. Is this your personality, or do you think it's only right?" This was equivalent to poking Su Wani's face in front of everyone, almost calling her a slave. "You!" Su Wani was furious. She had never been humiliated like this before. Chu Feng had long found her an eyesore. She had tried to kill him time and time again, and even sent people to touch his parents. She had already touched his reverse scale. Today, she still dared to jump out. No matter who she was, he naturally wouldn't say anything nice. If they were in another place, he would have already taken action. Lin Yeyu walked over from afar and glanced coldly at Su Wani. He felt that his wife had lost her composure today. She was asking for trouble. "Brother Chu, you can't say things like that. The integration of the various races is the general trend. There is no need to carry personal prejudice." Someone from the organizers stood out and said, "He was not afraid of anything." From his point of view, so what if Chu Feng was the angel ox? How could he compare to the son of a beast king? Could she be compared to the daughter-in-law of the Lin family of celestial biology? Chu Feng smiled and said, "Yes, the integration of the various races is a good thing, but nothing goes smoothly. We need a period of adjustment and adjustment. I just got along well with the descendant of the Silvermoon Wolf King and became friends. It's normal that I don't see eye to eye with this Mr. Huang." He was very calm and restrained. He didn't want to make things difficult for the people involved, but he absolutely didn't agree with what this person said. Therefore, he mentioned the descendant of the Silvermoon Wolf King to provoke and remind him. Sure enough, this person was a little embarrassed. His face darkened and he didn't know what to say. At this time, many people stood out to smooth things over. They didn't want the atmosphere to be too tense, as it would do no good to anyone. In particular, the organizers apologized to Huang Shaoxian and whispered something to him. In addition, there were people who came up to Chu Feng and whispered to him, "Don't say any more." Huang Shaoxian smiled and said, "There's no problem in letting this go, but he has to come over and apologize to me." He pointed at Chu Feng. Although he was smiling, he was a little arrogant. He raised his sharp chin and looked very conceited. This was because he wasn't afraid of Angel. After carefully watching the movie, he had already determined that Chu Feng's strength was not as strong as Vajra and Silver Wing. All he relied on was a big bow. Chu Feng didn't care. He couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him and turned around. "You!" Huang Xiaoxian's face darkened as he strode over. Beside him, someone tried to persuade Chu Feng, "Brother Chu, there's no need to be like this. Just lower your head and admit defeat." "I can't do that." Chu Feng turned around and looked at the person who tried to persuade him. Then, he glanced at Huang Shaoxian, still full of contempt. At this time, it was already good enough that he didn't attack. "Then let me teach you how to apologize to me," Huang Shaoxian said coldly as he closed in. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. Was he going to attack at the slightest disagreement? Everyone had a premonition that something big was about to happen. From the beginning to the end, the other young experts of the demonic races didn't make a sound. They just watched coldly from the sidelines. Huang Xiaoxian's eyes shone with a golden light. He swung his fist at Chu Feng with arrogance and disdain. "Angel Ox?" Huang Shaoxian was ready to break his bones with one punch. Bang! A man with a buzz cut walked over. His skin was the color of bronze and he looked very tough. His appearance was not ordinary, and he looked very heroic. He grabbed Huang Xiaoxian's hand. "Brother Yuan?" Huang Shaoxian wanted to get angry, but when he turned around and saw the young man, he smiled apologetically and lowered his stance. The bronze-skinned young man looked at him calmly and said, "What is this place? You want to fight here?" "Yuan Feng, from Mount Song," someone whispered. In an instant, everyone guessed his origin. Yuan Feng should be the descendant of the elder ape of the Great Woods Temple. Seeing how he could subdue Huang Shaoxian as soon as he appeared, it was obvious that his identity was not ordinary. Kong Sheng, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. He walked forward and said, "Yuan Feng, you're here too." He was the descendant of the Peacock King. His identity was extraordinary. Many people crowded around him, like the moon surrounded by stars. "Yes, I've just arrived." Yuan Feng nodded. He let go of Huang Shaoxian and walked over. "I have something to talk to you about," Kong Sheng said. His appearance was extremely handsome, and could be said to be rare. His purple hair was loose, and his figure was slender. His temperament was too outstanding. Although he was handsome, he was not feminine. Instead, he was slightly dignified. Because of the terrifying power that lay dormant in his body, the strands of qi that emanated from him made people feel pressured. "What's the matter?" Yuan Feng asked. At the same time, he looked at Huang Shaoxian and said, "It's not good to let him act recklessly in this kind of situation." Huang Shaoxian felt awkward. He did not attack again. Kong Xing revealed a smile. His smile was incomparably radiant, like the purple glow of dawn. He opened his mouth and said, "These are all small matters. That person is right. In the process of integration, there will inevitably be conflicts and conflict. There needs to be a transition period. Let them solve their own problems. You and I can interfere once, but can we interfere a second or third time?" This. Yuan Feng wanted to say something, but he was pulled to the side by Kong Xing. Huang Shaoxian laughed. With Kong Xing's words, he was full of confidence and was not afraid of things getting out of hand. Chu Feng's heart trembled. Could it be that the Peacock King was really the terrifying existence that controlled the Ash Wolf and Falcon King? Moreover, Kong Xing already knew that he killed the Ash Wolf? It was obvious that Kong Xing did not have any goodwill towards him and wanted to let Huang Shaoxian do whatever he wanted. "Brother Yuan Feng," Miao Fei called out sweetly. She had short hair and her eyes were like gems. Occasionally there would be a flash of green light, giving her a bewitching beauty. The descendant of the Cloud Leopard King, Yun Fei, also came forward to greet Yuan Feng. "Yuan Feng, I want to use some things to exchange for the pollen and fruits of the Vajra Bodhi tree," Kong Xing said. "You came to find me for this?" Yuan Feng's expression was solemn as he asked, "What are you going to give me in exchange?" The Vajra Bodhi tree was a 1,000-year-old ancient tree on Mount Song. It was currently the most precious mutant tree. The Vajra Bodhi fruit it bore had miraculous effects, allowing one to evolve rapidly. Kong Xing said, "Although the Vajra Bodhi tree of Mount Song is known as a sacred tree, it is definitely not one yet. It will take time for it to recover. Don't worry, the things I offer will not be inferior to its pollen and fruit." "You want to break through and become a king-level entity?" Yuan Feng asked. Kong Xing smiled, making him look even more bewitching and handsome. His purple pupils were deep as he said, "You are the same as me. I'm sure the Ape King has already prepared the pollen and holy fruits for you to evolve. It won't be long before Mount Song has another king." The two did not conceal their conversation. Many people heard it and their hearts were shaken. Mutant fruits were so rare that it was difficult for others to become mutants. Yet, they were picking and choosing to become beast kings. Was this the benefit of occupying a famed mountain? It was simply driving people crazy. "The fruits of the Vajra Bodhi tree are too few. I don't think I have the qualifications to enjoy them." Yuan Feng shook his head. "The old Ape King doesn't need so many for the time being. He is already peerless and will definitely consider helping you break through." Kong Xing smiled. The people around them were alarmed as they listened, but they gradually understood. The descendants of beast kings entered the human territory in order to gain experience and understand the human race's knowledge, broadening their horizons. To these beast kings there were many aspects of the human race that they could learn from. So much so that the world of mortals was like a treasure trove to them. If they could gain the necessary knowledge, their state of mind would be greatly improved. Otherwise, terrifying existences like the Peacock King and the Old Ape King would be able to find the most precious mutant fruits to help them break through. The Beast Kings had their own considerations. Their descendants were not like them who had experienced the baptism of hundreds of years. They had to go through many trials and tribulations to accumulate enough experience. They wanted their descendants to blend into the human race and experience the world of mortals for a period of time. Many people were shocked. The descendants of Beast Kings were indeed blessed by the heavens and were destined to break through to a higher level. Their path had long since been arranged for them. In truth, Huang Shaoxian was also resentful. Although they were all descendants of Beast Kings, their fates were different. Their ancestor had only recently broken through to the Beast King level. How could he care for them? At the same time, the place they occupied was not considered a famous mountain. They only occupied a slightly famous peak in the north, and did not have many wondrous trees. It would be difficult for them to raise a second beast king. Hence, Huang Shaoxian became more and more aggrieved. He already disliked Chu Feng, but now he wanted to kill him even more. You two can sit down and talk. Someone saw that something was wrong and wanted to dissuade them. Huang Shaoxian was a skinny man with a head of yellow hair and a sharp chin. His eyes were flashing with a shrewd light, but his smile was repulsive. He put on a fake smile and said, "I'm a very easy person to talk to. Just let this beauty dance with me as an apology." He pointed at Yi Qingru. Yi Qingru's expression changed. She had now guessed this person's background. Being forced to dance with a weasel, she would definitely become a laughingstock. Afterwards, he pointed at Ouyang Qing and Du Huijin and said, "At the same time, these two are an eyesore. Tell them to scram." Ouyang Qing and Du Huijin were furious. Being targeted repeatedly made them furious. Chu Feng naturally knew that Huang Shaoxian was doing this on purpose. On the surface, he was targeting Yi Qingru and Du Huijin, but in reality, he was trying to humiliate him by stealing his companion and reprimanding his friends. "Hurry up and come over here." Huang Shaoxian raised his chin, golden light blossomed in his eyes as he looked at Yi Qingru. He used his spiritual power to forcefully control her to come over. His spiritual power was so strong that many people around him felt dizzy and were affected, not to mention Yi Qingru, who bore the brunt of it. Her face turned pale and her body swayed. "Scram!" Chu Feng shouted with the reckless ox roar. It contained a similar spiritual attack and forcefully broke Huang Shaoxian's spiritual restraint. Boom! Huang Shaoxian's expression turned cold. He punched out, creating a thunderous sound as he directly attacked Chu Feng. Bang! Chu Feng raised his hand and blocked the attack, coldly staring at him. "Don't be like this, can we both take a step back?" The host was anxious. Many people rushed over, trying to separate them. "Let's fight on the rooftop, don't disturb others," Chu Feng said. He had restrained himself enough today, but now he had no choice but to fight. Life and death are decreed by fate. Huang Shaoxian laughed, very relaxed. He didn't put Chu Feng in his eyes, because he didn't use any strength just now. In a split second, the banquet hall became deserted. Everyone followed him to the rooftop of the Qilin Tower. The space there was wide enough for the two to fight. The night sky was soft and gentle, filled with stars. The rooftop of the building was very quiet. Even though there were many people standing there was no noise. Everyone was watching from afar. Huang Shaoxian stood in the middle of the rooftop. He was very arrogant, but he didn't dare to be careless. At this moment, a golden light burst out from his eyes. He shouted at Chu Feng, "Why are you still not kneeling?" His spiritual energy was extremely terrifying. As soon as he made his move, he used this kind of divine ability. He wanted to control Chu Feng's spirit and force him to kneel in front of everyone to humiliate him. Chu Feng felt a piercing pain in his head. He was being attacked by a spiritual attack. He slowly moved forward, his body seemed to be bending. Huang Shaoxian laughed out loud, extremely carefree. He enjoyed this feeling very much, controlling the will of others, controlling everything. "Boss!" Du Huijin and Ouyang Qing's faces were ashen as they shouted. Yi Qingru was also very worried. If Chu Feng was humiliated here, it would be even more terrifying than killing him. That kind of result made her feel very uncomfortable. "Chu Feng!" Chen Luoyan shouted, trying to wake him up. At this moment, even Jiang Luoshan couldn't bear to do this. Even though she wanted to beat up Chu Feng, she didn't want him to be humiliated in front of the beast race. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. Kong Sheng was very calm. He stood there motionlessly, his waist-length purple hair fluttering in the night wind. His handsome face was completely expressionless. "Is this okay?" Yuan Feng asked in a low voice. "There will always be a period of transition and adjustment. Let them solve it themselves. Kong Xing glanced at him. Many people sighed. This scene was indeed unsettling. After all, the one who was about to be humiliated was Chu Feng, a human. Su Wani was laughing from the bottom of her heart. She had been waiting for this day, and she almost laughed out loud. Very good, very obedient. Huang Shaoxian smiled, the golden light in his eyes becoming more and more intense. He felt that he could control anyone's life and death. He found that Chu Feng's waist seemed to have lowered even more. He was enjoying this moment very much. Boom. However, the next moment, wind and thunder exploded as Chu Feng suddenly moved. His fist smashed out as fast as lightning. Earlier, when he moved his feet forward, it was only to get closer. When he bent his waist slightly, it was to gather strength for a punch. You! Huang Shaoxian screamed. He couldn't dodge at all. His opponent's speed was too fast, reaching subsonic speed. All he could do was raise his arms to block and then counterattack. However, he had underestimated Chu Feng from the beginning. After taking the first punch, his face turned pale. Crack! His right arm was immediately fractured and broken by Chu Feng's first punch. Crack! When Chu Feng's second punch landed, his left arm was also broken. It was struck until it was bent unnaturally, emitting a terrifying bone-cracking sound. Boom! Chu Feng's third punch landed on Huang Xiaoxian's chest. Crack! Huang Xiaoxian's chest caved in. 4 of his ribs were broken. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Whoosh! Chu Feng caught up with Huang Shaoxian, who was flying through the air with terrifying speed. Then, he lashed out with a kick that landed on Huang Xiaoxian's left rib, causing the bones there to crackle as one of his ribs was broken. Only then did he stop, standing there motionless. Only then did Huang Shaoxian let out a scream. His bones were broken and the pain was unbearable. He fell on the rooftop and rolled on the ground, foaming with blood. Everyone was shocked. No one spoke. They all stared at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Chu Feng was simply too violent. To think that he would end the battle so quickly and cleanly. This caused people's hearts to palpitate. Too violent, too wild. But I like it. After a long time, Ouyang Qin cried out. Hearing this, the others couldn't help but want to nod. They all had the same feeling. Only by sweeping away Huang Shaoxian in such a violent manner would they feel carefree. As a fellow human, many had long disliked Huang Shaoxian. However, they didn't dare to express their anger. Now, someone had taken the lead and defeated him. How satisfying! The beast race experts were all expressionless. You deserve to die, Huang Shaoxian shouted. He was indeed a weasel, born with powerful spiritual energy. This type of creature was called the Great Immortal Huang in many places because there were too many legends about them. The most famous one was that they could control people's minds. It was very strange. After Huang Shaoxian evolved, this ability naturally became more powerful. But in the end, he suffered such a crushing defeat. In fact, Chu Feng had to admit that Huang Shaoxian was very powerful. At the very least, he was at the 8th level of the awakened realm. If it was someone else, they would have fallen for it. Even someone as powerful as Yi Qingru had her mind controlled by Huang Shaoxian when she least expected it. If it wasn't for the fact that Chu Feng had mastered the demon ox roar, it would have taken him quite a bit of effort to deal with it. It would have been impossible for him to do it so cleanly. Kill! Huang Shaoxian shouted. Swoosh! A bright light suddenly shot out from Huang Shaoxian, slashing towards Chu Feng. Oh my God, it's a flying sword! Someone exclaimed. It was indeed a short sword, about the length of a palm. It was dazzlingly bright as it slashed towards Chu Feng's neck. Not only does Mount Shu have the art of imperial sword, our lineage is also proficient in it. Huang Shaoxian sneered. This was his biggest trump card. With his powerful spiritual energy, he could control objects to kill. Rumble! However, Chu Feng's performance was very frightening. His left hand formed the shape of a dragon, and his right hand formed the shape of a tiger. The dragon and tiger contend for hegemony of the form, and Will Fist was unleashed. Clang! At the most critical moment, Huang Shaoxian clasped his hands together and caught the bright flying sword between his palms. Crack! He crushed his palms together, and the dragon and tiger contend for hegemony erupted, shaking the rooftop. The spiraling force exploded and tore the flying sword into pieces. How is this possible? Huang Shaoxian turned pale. This flying sword was made of very rare materials, yet it was torn apart just like that. In the next moment, Chu Feng arrived in front of him and stepped forward. Crack! The sound of bones breaking could be heard. Chapter 121. Huang Shaoxian couldn't stop screaming. The other part of his sternum, which was still intact, caved in. All of his bones were fractured. Bang! Then, Chu Feng swept out another kick, sending Huang Shaoxian flying. Even his spine was fractured. His injury was extremely serious. Interesting. Just a weasel. He even summoned his flying sword. What else do you have? Show me. Chu Feng said. I'm going to kill you. Huang Shaoxian roared and fell to the ground. His mouth was full of blood and his body was convulsing. He was covered in cold sweat because of the pain. He had never suffered such a big loss since his debut. Before the world changed, he had already lived for more than 20 years. He had gained sentience. At that time, in a remote area, he was revered as a great immortal, and many people offered sacrifices to him. In Chinese medicine, this kind of mental disturbance caused by weasels was called hysteria. It could be said that when he was still a beast, he was already psychic and possessed extraordinary means. Now that he had evolved, he was even more terrifying. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been chosen by the ancestor of the weasel bloodline and chosen as his successor. Now that he had fully evolved, his mental strength had skyrocketed. He could even summon his flying sword. His strength was astonishing. Killing creatures in the awakened realm was like cutting vegetables. If he hadn't met Chu Feng, not many people in the awakened realm could keep him in check. Unfortunately, he met Chu Feng. Today was destined to be a miserable day. You're still so stubborn. Chu Feng stepped forward and stepped on Huang Shaoxian's bones a few more times to help him break his bones. You! Huang Shaoxian was scared, mainly because of the pain. The pain was unbearable. He couldn't help but tremble with cold sweat dripping down his body. Although he was angry, he didn't dare to challenge Chu Feng anymore. Even so, Chu Feng still stepped on him a few more times, fracturing his jaw. At this moment, Huang Shaoxian's tears flowed down his face. The pain was unbearable. He couldn't even speak properly because his jaw was broken. The night sky was dotted with stars. The rooftop was silent. The humans were all stunned. Just now, Chu Feng was like a demonic god. He attacked swiftly and violently, sweeping through all obstacles and ending the battle in the shortest time possible. No one doubted Huang Shaoxian's strength. He even summoned his flying sword. The snow-white sword light was terrifying to the extreme. Apart from king-level creatures, how many people could stand up to him? Chu Feng used the dragon form and tiger form of Xing and Yi Fist to attack together and directly tore the flying sword to pieces, shocking the crowd. Awesome! Ouyang Qing and Du Huijin were cheering, as if they were the ones who were beating Huang Shaoxian up to vent their anger. Not long ago, Huang Shaoxian had looked down on them with disdain and contempt, even calling them Tom, Dick, and Harry. He was extremely arrogant and domineering, but now, he was beaten to a pulp. Yi Qingru also laughed. She really hated this Huang Shaoxian, who had almost taken control of her mind. Now that he had beaten her like a dead dog, she was extremely happy. Many people felt delighted. This battle had boosted their morale, and many people on the human side felt comfortable. The organizers, on the other hand, were sweating and trembling. They felt that things were not looking good. That was the descendant of the Beast King, yet he had been beaten to the point where all his bones were broken. This was a huge matter. There was also someone who felt resentful and sullen, and that was Suwani. Just a moment ago, she was still smiling. She wanted to see the Beast Prince humiliate Chu Feng and even wanted to kill him in front of everyone. Who would have thought that this would be the final result? Her expression was ugly and even somewhat ashen. Huang Xiaoxian's defeat made her very annoyed. At this time, many people were shaken, especially the upper echelons of the corporations. They felt that they had underestimated Angel Ok. His strength was far beyond their expectations. Even Jiang Luotian's heart was thumping wildly. She was absolutely certain that Chu Feng was the one who killed the Ash Wolf. Otherwise, how could he be so strong? She had her suspicions before, and after watching the video a dozen times, she was even more certain now. The entire area was in an uproar as people came back to their senses. They were truly stunned just now. Immediately, discussions broke out everywhere, and everyone was incomparably excited. Only at this time did the organizers rush over and carefully examine Huang Xiaoxian's body. They also apologized in a low voice and said all kinds of good things. Just now, Chu Feng was like a demonic god. Even the organizers didn't dare to act recklessly. Now they were complaining in their hearts. They resented Chu Feng for seriously injuring Huang Xiaoxian and almost crippling him. How were they going to face the beast race experts in the future? Chu Feng, you're really... Someone wanted to vent his anger on Chu Feng. However, when he saw Chu Feng's cold gaze, that person immediately became silent. He was extremely afraid. At this point, everyone could see that Chu Feng was not an ordinary person. His strength was terrifying. He was even more powerful than his previous identity, Angel Ox. This matter isn't over yet. Huang Xiaoxian spat out a mouthful of blood and said hatefully. He had never suffered such a big loss before. Do you want me to follow the rules of life and death? Chu Feng said coldly and directly leaped over. This was subsonic speed, as fast as lightning. When he landed on the ground, a cracking sound was heard. His feet had stepped on Huang Xiaoxian's legs. Obviously, the bones were broken. Ah! Huang Xiaoxian screamed miserably. Courting death, Chu Feng said coldly. He then took a step forward and stomped on Huang Xiaoxian's face. Immediately, many of Huang Xiaoxian's teeth were broken. No. Huang Xiaoxian was horrified. He spat out this word with difficulty. He was scared out of his wits. He was afraid that Chu Feng would trample him to death right here. This person was like a demonic god, causing him to tremble in fear. The organizers were all scared stiff, but they didn't dare to stop Huang Xiaoxian. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. All they could do was watch from the side with pale faces. Brother Chu, that's enough. At this time, a person quickly approached and blocked Chu Feng's way, preventing him from killing Huang Xiaoxian. This was a young man of about 23 or 24 years of age. He was tall and had delicate features. He was a very gentle young man. He looked at Chu Feng and said, "I'm Zhao Yu from the Hollow Jade Temple." Chu Feng was startled. He knew this person. There were 3 youths from the Hollow Jade Temple that were heavily nurtured. One of them was Zhao Yu. He thought it would be the experts from the beast race who would come to stop him. He didn't expect Zhao Yu to arrive first. Let him go. Otherwise, our Hollow Jade Temple will be in trouble. Zhao Yu spoke in a refined manner. Ordinary people wouldn't know that he was a seedling of the Hollow Jade Temple. Chu Feng thought for a moment, then lifted his foot. He didn't take another step. In fact, he didn't want to kill Huang Xiaoxian in front of everyone. The Beast Kings had just reached an agreement with the humans. If he killed a Beast King's heir now, it would have a negative impact. If this was in the wilderness, Chu Feng would have killed him directly. But under the watchful eyes of so many people, It would cause a huge storm if he really did so. Right now, Huang Shaoxian was almost half crippled with many broken bones. This kind of result might be better. It would serve as a negative example and serve as a deterrent. Chu Feng's forceful attack served as a warning to the other Beast King's descendants that there were still experts among the humans. Let's stop here. Only now did Kong Xing speak as he walked over. He was tall and slender, clad in human attire. His purple hair hung loosely over his shoulders. There was an indescribable temperament about him. He was devilishly handsome. At this time, many people came over to accompany him. This was because Kong Xing's identity was too special. His position was transcendent and the Peacock King behind him was known to be invincible. Brother Kong Huang Shaoxian lowered his head in fear. At the same time, he felt wronged. He had been defeated so miserably that he was about to go mad. Who can you blame for your own lack of strength? Let's go, Kong Xing said indifferently before leaving. Contrary to everyone's expectations, he didn't attack. This made Su Wani feel disappointed and regretful. She had hoped that someone like Kong Xing would make a move. Chu Feng was surprised. He felt that this Kong Xing was not simple. He clearly had no good intentions toward him, yet he was able to leave so calmly. Someone came over with a stretcher and placed Huang Shaoxian on it before taking him away. When he came, he was full of mettle and arrogance. But when he left, he was carried away. Huang Shaoxian was incomparably resentful. He turned around and glared coldly at Chu Feng. He felt extremely sullen. Without a doubt, the news of this battle would spread. He, Huang Shaoxian, would become the loser in everyone's eyes. Whether it was in human society or among the beast race, he would become a negative example. It was too shameful. After the banquet ended, no one was in the mood to stay any longer. Very soon, the internet was in an uproar. Someone had uploaded the video of the battle. Chu Feng, who had not shown himself for many days, had been too quiet. There was no news of him at all. No one would have thought that his appearance would be so earth-shattering. Who is that person? He even released his flying sword. How terrifying! But in the end, Angel Ox tore the sword apart. This is too shocking. Angel Ox is quiet when he doesn't show himself, but once he does, he causes a huge stir. Soon after, someone wrote down the cause and effect of the battle and put it together with the video. It immediately caused an uproar on the internet. At first, people only felt that the battle was shocking. After all, there was a flying sword. But after understanding the inside story, the crowd was stirred up. Many people cheered loudly. An arrogant weasel humiliated humans at a banquet. He deserved it. Well done. My blood is boiling. I really want to go and beat that weasel up myself. Chu Feng is too valiant. He took on a flying sword with his bare hand. He is even more powerful than we thought. He is definitely a super expert. The internet was in an uproar. It was one-sided in support of Chu Feng. Many people felt their blood boiling. They wanted nothing more than to be there and beat that arrogant weasel up. After Chu Feng returned, he immediately went to see Lu Tong and told him the details. Could it be that they know you killed the ash wolf? The old man was calm and emotionless. He was not affected by anything. He lowered his head and pondered. This is so infuriating. In a luxurious and spacious room, Huang Shaoxian smashed his communicator. He was furious because he saw the video and the report on the internet. 2 experienced elders were in his room, helping him set his bones. At the same time, their palms were glowing with mysterious energy. Such a heavy blow. Huang is almost crippled. He needs to rest well, one of the elders said. At this moment, Kong Xing arrived and walked into the room. His handsome face was as calm as ever, without any ripples. Yun Fei and Miao Fei followed behind him. Brother Kong, why didn't you make a move? You should have killed him. Huang Shaoxian shouted in dissatisfaction. Yunfei, the descendant of the Cloud Leopard King, said, "You had an agreement with him to have a fair battle. How could Brother Kong make a move in front of so many people? If I lost, you guys could have arranged a battle with him." Huang Shaoxian felt wronged. Miao Fei snorted. The kings had just discussed with the humans. If they were to take revenge and kill him because of your loss, it would be a bad influence. Huang Shaoxian lowered his head and said, "I didn't expect him to be so strong. Not many below the king level could be his opponent unless Brother Kong went to kill him." The others looked at Kong Sheng, wanting to know what his decision would be. There was a faint purple glow in Kong Sheng's eyes. He said calmly, "Find someone to spread the news that Chu Feng was the one who killed the Ash Wolf King." "Ah, it's him?" Huang Shaoxian, Yunfei, and Miao Fei were all shocked. Their eyes widened. Even the eyes of the two old men in the room, who were originally very calm, now shone brightly and revealed looks of astonishment. "Whether it's him or not, there must be a reason for us to kill him," Kong Sheng said calmly. The others were stunned, then they were filled with admiration. Huang Shaoxian was overjoyed. He said, "Brother Kong's plan is thorough, brilliant. This reason is enough. Other than the humans, we will all be hostile to him. If we kill him like this, even if it's a little high profile, the humans won't be able to say anything." "Don't be high profile. Kill him in a low profile," Kong Sheng said. He then looked at the two elders in the room and said, "When the time comes, Elder Huang and Uncle Lin will go personally." "Okay." Huang Yun nodded. He had wanted to make a move since a long time ago. He and Huang Shaoxian were of the same lineage. Seeing him beaten up like this, Huang Yun's murderous intent had long been aroused. The other elder, Kong Lin, also nodded. His eyes shone with a purple light, and a terrifying aura that had been dormant in his body was released, causing people's hearts to palpitate. Huang Shaoxian was overjoyed. He knew how terrifying these two elders were. He said, "Good, like a lion hunting a rabbit. With the two of you here, he will be easily killed." In another mansion, Mu Tian was reading a book. It was one of those yellowed ancient books with the words, "Eight Extremities Fist Scripture" written on the cover. If outsiders were to see this, they would definitely be shocked. He actually had this kind of ancient martial art book in his possession, and it seemed like he was only reading it for fun. There was another young man in the room. His name was Mu Zhuo. "Brother Tian, you're too calm. Today you saw that Chu Feng, but you didn't even make a move. You even talked to him. Even I can't help but want to deal with him. We're in the middle of a storm, is there a need to get involved?" Mu Tian didn't even raise his head, he was still reading. "Then when do we make a move? Mu Tian can't die in vain, he's your little brother," Mu Zhuo said. "Are you in such a hurry?" Mu Tian glanced at him indifferently. Mu Zhuo couldn't calm down, he said. "His strength is shocking, it's better to get rid of him as soon as possible. Moreover, Brother Tian, you're obviously invincible. Then go find someone to spread the news. Say that the mysterious expert who killed the Ash Wolf is Chu Feng." Mu Tian put down the book and said, Mu Zhuo was shocked. "Is it really Chu Feng's doing?" "It doesn't matter if it is or not, it's enough to give the strange races a reason to make a move," Mu Tian calmly said. He then picked up the book and paused for a moment, then said, "Moreover, I feel that it's him." At night, Chu Feng put down the communicator and was lost in thought. Just now, he had talked with Lin Nuo for a long time. Linoi contacted him at the first instance after learning about what happened here. She was very serious, saying that this matter wasn't over yet and that there would definitely be a big storm. According to her conjecture, the heir of the Beast King wouldn't let this matter go so easily and would soon make his move. In addition, she especially mentioned Mu Tian, telling Chu Feng that he must be careful of this person because he was too powerful and extremely dangerous. "I think even if he doesn't make a move immediately, he will still put you in danger. For example, He might tell the outside world that you killed the ash wolf and use you to do the dirty work. Linoy warned him again and again, telling him to be careful. Early in the morning, an explosive piece of news shook the entire network and spread like wildfire. Chu Feng is the mysterious expert who killed the ash wolf. This caused a huge wave, everyone was stunned and then boiled over. Oh my God, Angel Ox is too powerful, it's actually him who killed that vicious wolf. I'm starting to admire him. Who would have thought that apart from Angel Ox's identity, Chu Feng was also the one who killed the ash wolf? How exciting! This piece of news stirred up a huge wave. Everyone was discussing fervently and the internet was boiling over. Many people were praising Chu Feng and at the same time, revered him greatly. However, to Chu Feng, this was undoubtedly a huge crisis. Lu Tong immediately called him over with a solemn expression. This news was too sudden and the Hollow Jade Temple wasn't prepared for it. The experts of the beast race have all transformed, this is very troublesome. Lu Tong was worried. He stood up and after some hesitation, said, "There's only one way now." "What way?" Chu Feng remained calm throughout. "Break through with force and become even stronger. You'll be able to compete with the Beast King," Lu Tong said. Chu Feng looked at him but didn't say anything. "I'll send you to the pilgrimage grounds," Lu Tong said solemnly. Chapter 122. Lu Tong warned, "It's just that place is too dangerous. There are king-level entities roaring and peerless experts contending for supremacy. Too many people have died there." He was a little worried for Chu Feng, afraid that he would die there. Although the pilgrimage ground was a good place with auspicious clouds and mysterious sacred trees, it was also a land of death. But now, the situation was dire. He had a premonition that the plot against Chu Feng had just begun. If he did not leave this place, he would be in grave danger. The Masters of Eight Visions Temple and Roaming Jade Temple have already arrived at the pilgrimage ground. They should be able to take over that place in a short period of time. Lu Tong said. Chu Feng realized the gravity of the situation. Even the other two experts had taken action. Lu Tong began contacting people to make all sorts of arrangements, such as a private plane. He wanted Chu Feng to leave as soon as possible. "What will happen to my parents after I leave?" Chu Feng asked. He was worried about the safety of his parents. "This is Hollow Jade Temple. Your parents are very safe here. If the beast race really dares to act recklessly, their home will be razed to the ground." At this time, Old Man Lu Tong was quite domineering and confident. This was because the Masters of Eight Visions Temple, Hollow Jade Temple, and Roaming Jade Temple had all declared that those who dared to trample on their training grounds would join hands and slaughter them. "You've killed the Ash Wolf King, so they're only targeting you. They won't implicate your family. This is their bottom line, or else none of their children will survive," Lu Tong said. He then sighed. "I originally wanted you to hide in Hollow Jade Temple, but there are no peerless experts overseeing the situation. I'm afraid they will be driven to desperate action." At the same time, Lu Tong did not want to be too passive. Rather than letting Chu Feng hide, it was better to think of a way to help him rise up quickly and kill his way back. The old man was usually all smiles, but at the critical moment, he was very tyrannical. He thought highly of Chu Feng and felt that he had the potential to become a king-level entity. Chu Feng stood up and went to bid farewell to his parent. "Dad, Mom, don't worry. There are several peerless experts overseeing the place. It's very safe." At home, Chu Feng pretended to be relaxed. Wang Jing's eyes reddened. How could she not be worried about such a big thing? "You must be careful," Chu Ziyuan urged. Then, Chu Feng's communicator rang. Yellow Cattle had contacted him. Even it, who was far away in the Kunlun Mountains, knew about the incident. It told Chu Feng that he could rendezvous with the Black Yak at Mount Kunlun. Whoever dared to chase after him would be annihilated. Chu Feng smiled bitterly. The journey was too long, not as close as the pilgrimage grounds. After ending the call, he walked to the big flower pot in the room. There were 4 kilograms of strange soil in it, and the stone box and the seeds were buried in it. Chu Feng peeled away the ordinary soil on the surface, revealing the strange soil underneath. It had already lost its luster and turned into ordinary sand. The essence was absorbed by the seed? Chu Feng carefully dug it open and discovered that there were many patterns on the snow-white seed. It was extremely profound and full of vitality. There was a special type of Tao rhythm to it. But unfortunately, that was all. There were no signs of it taking root or sprouting. The essence of the strange soil had been consumed, and there was no point in burying it any further. As for the other 2 seeds, there were no changes. One was black and shriveled, and the other seemed to have been squashed. Chu Feng placed the 3 seeds into the stone box and prepared to take them away. Not long after, he left home and met up with Lu Tong at the Hollow Jade Temple. Everything has been arranged. You can leave now. A car carrying Chu Feng passed through an underground tunnel in the Hollow Jade Temple and headed towards the underground parking lot of a commercial building. The passage between the two was well hidden. Soon after, the car came to the surface and set off. The main reason was that Lu Tong was worried that there were beast race experts watching over the Hollow Jade Temple. I'll go see those beast race experts and see if we can make peace. Lu Tong also set off to meet up with Kong Xing and the others. The living room was spacious and well decorated. It was low-key and not extravagant, but it was sufficiently comfortable. Kong Xing sat on the sofa. His clothes were clean and tidy, and his purple hair hung down to his waist. He was incomparably handsome and elegant. He invited Lu Tong to drink tea in a calm manner. He wasn't close, but he wasn't distant either. Miao Fei, as a descendant of a beast king, was personally making tea. Her tea ceremony skills were exquisite, and her movements were elegant and graceful. Just looking at her was a form of enjoyment. One had to know that they were beast race experts, but now they looked even more elegant and well-mannered than humans. Of course, Huang Shaoxian was an exception. He sat in a wheelchair, his entire body covered in plaster and metal frames. His eyes were filled with undisguised hatred. His words were unpleasant to hear. Who does Chu Feng think he is? If Brother Kong were to take action, he would have killed him with a wave of his hand. What makes him worthy of you guys asking for mercy? Lu Tong glanced at him indifferently and didn't reply. Elder Lu, I'm very clear about your intentions. You're overthinking things. We've never intended to do anything to Chu Feng. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. Kong Xing spoke in a gentle tone. Lu Tong didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "There's no point in talking about this anymore. Everyone here understands. I only want to ask, how do we get past this? After all, the Beast Kings have just reached an agreement with the humans. We should protect them." Kong Xing smiled. His pupils were glowing with a faint purple light. His entire being was radiant and elegant. I don't mind. It's just that this time, Chu Feng injured Brother Huang too badly. Some of the elders were shocked and wanted to see what this young human hero was like. As he spoke, he pointed at the 2 old men sitting on the sofa on the other side. They were Huang Yun and Kong Lin. The 2 bowed slightly and nodded. At the same time, strands of terrifying aura emanated from their bodies, and it was terrifying to the core. Lu Tong's heart sank. These 2 were quasi-beast kings, far surpassing the other beast race experts. They had long since seen the shackles that bound them. Normally, such beings were considered king-level entities. However, the current beast kings were considered to have severed at least one of their shackles. Hence, they were only quasi-beast kings. Huang Yun had a head of yellow hair and a sharp chin. His temperament was similar to Huang Xiaoxian's. His eyes flashed as he said, We mean no harm. We just want to see how extraordinary Brother Chu Feng is and get to know him. I wonder if Brother Lu can arrange this." Lu Tong frowned. It would be strange if he believed them. Even quasi-beast kings had been mobilized. The situation was far from good. Fortunately, he had arranged for Chu Feng to leave as soon as possible. Suddenly, his communicator vibrated. He had received a text message from Chu Feng, informing him that there was a minor problem with the plane and that the flight would be delayed. Lu Tong's expression changed. This wasn't going well at all. At this time, Huang Yun's communicator also rang. He looked down and revealed a smile, saying, "Excuse me, Brother Kong, and I still have some matters to attend to." The two beast race elders stood up to express their apologies. Lu Tong's heart sank. Could it be that the airport incident had something to do with them? This was too terrifying. He couldn't quite believe it. However, he still contacted the Hollow Jade Temple at the first instance. "Zhao Yu, deliver the mutant fruit I've collected to Chu Feng. Tell him to act according to the circumstances." Lu Tong sent out a message. That mutant fruit might be able to help Chu Feng break through, but the chances were not high. That was because the suppression of the King realm was too powerful. Ordinary mutant fruits had long since lost their effectiveness. Only extraordinary fruits from ancient trees on famous mountains and rivers were needed. At the same time, Lu Tong didn't want Chu Feng to consume too many mutant fruit. He wanted him to use pollen to break through. But he didn't expect the situation to be this bad. He was truly afraid that the airport incident was caused by Kong Sheng. Within the Hollow Jade Temple, Zhao Yu's face was ashen. He was one of the top 3 seeds of the Hollow Jade Temple and was being nurtured with great importance. Last night, he was also the first to stand up and stop Chu Feng from dealing with Huang Shaoxian. Recently, he had felt a sense of pressure. Chu Feng had caught up with him and was becoming more and more important to the Hollow Jade Temple. "I've hinted several times about this mutant fruit, but he didn't give it to me. Instead, he gave it to him." Zhao Yu's expression was ugly. He took the mutant fruit and drove away. However, he stopped on the way and hesitated. In the end, he clenched his teeth and put away the mutant fruit. He was prepared to bring it back for his own breakthrough. Afterwards, he sent a message to a certain number, informing him of Chu Feng's flight information. Finally, he dilly-dallied and rushed to the airport. Zhao Yu's voice was cold. "If you die, everything will end perfectly. If you live, I'll say I was late and couldn't deliver the mutant fruit." In the living room, Lu Tong was silent as he waited for the result. However, what surprised him was that Huang Yun and Kong Lin had returned. They sat down and said, "The matter has been resolved. We were impolite just now." The radiance in Lu Tong's eyes faded away. He felt that these people hadn't received any news and were just probing him with their actions just now to observe his reaction. He sat there calmly and no longer looked at his communicator. It would be best if he could stall these 2 quasi-beast kings here. Before long, someone came in and handed Kong Sheng a slip of paper. He read it briefly and then passed it to Huang Yun and Kong Lin. "Sai, I'm sorry. I have to leave again." "Excuse me," Huang Yun said. Lu Tong broke into a smile and said nothing as he watched them leave. Huang Yun and Kong Lin quickly left Shuntian and transformed into their true forms. "Is the information reliable?" Huang Yun turned into a yellow weasel. His eyes were rolling about as he looked at the southern sky. "There should be no mistake. Let's kill him on the road ahead." Kong Lin turned into a peacock. His whole body was shrouded in a haze of light as if he was cast from metal. Huang Yun jumped onto Kong Lin's back with a swoosh. The peacock spread its wings and flew away at top speed. Their speed was simply too fast. They were heading south in preparation to kill Chu Feng. After a long while, Chu Feng boarded the plane and headed for the pilgrimage ground. After 500 kilometers away from Shuntian, an alarm sounded from the passenger plane. A gigantic creature had appeared in the clouds ahead. It was a 10-meter-long peacock, emitting a 5-colored radiance and suffused with a terrifying aura. Heavens! Could it be a king-level entity? The pilot cried out. This was a modified passenger plane that was equipped with some weapons. The pilot fired immediately because the gigantic creature was diving towards them. At the same time, he quickly contacted the ground to inform them of the situation. Along this route, there were all kinds of sophisticated weapons on the ground. They were aimed at the sky at all times and would fire immediately after receiving the information. Boom! A fierce battle broke out in the sky. A number of surface-to-air missiles soared into the sky. However, the peacock was too sharp. Its entire body erupted with a brilliant radiance, and no one could see it clearly. It was completely enshrouded in flames. Its speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it had closed in on the passenger plane. It used the plane as a shield to deter the people on the ground. Crack! It directly tore the plane apart, and its sharp claws easily tore through the alloy. Heavens, what kind of monster is that? Is it a king-level entity? The people on the ground who had witnessed this scene were all stunned, especially since they couldn't see clearly what kind of creature it was. It was wrapped in a layer of mysterious energy and radiance. It's doing this on purpose. It doesn't want to be exposed. The people on the ground clenched their teeth. Very soon, everyone's expression changed. The plane had been torn to shreds by that monster. Attack! Blast it down! Someone on the ground roared. Even the passenger plane had been torn to pieces. What else did they have to fear? Their firepower interweaved and swept towards the sky. At this moment, even the peacock was afraid. All kinds of terrifying weapons turned into tongues of flame, engulfing the sky and enveloping it. In the end, the peacock was stained with blood. After all, it wasn't a true beast king. It fell to the ground. "Brother Kong, are you all right?" Huang Yun asked from the peacock's back. "I won't die. I underestimated the firearms of the humans." Kong Lin evaded the attacks in the air, and quickly fell to the ground. "Is that brat dead?" Huang Yun asked. "Even if he wasn't torn to shreds, he would still fall to his death," Kong Lin said. Suddenly, a terrifying light shot out from his eyes. "He's still alive. There's a mutant beside him who can fly." Chu Feng had arranged for such a mutant to be by his side just in case. After the plane was destroyed, they fell from the sky together. That mutant didn't display his flying ability at first. Only when they were far away from the terrifying sky did he spread his wings and bring Chu Feng down to the ground. "He's dead meat," Huang Yun shouted. "The situation isn't looking good. One of my wings is broken, and I can barely land on the ground. If I try to fly, I won't be able to fly very fast." "I'm afraid I won't be as fast as you running on the ground," Kong Lin said. "Old man, I've been ambushed. The plane has been destroyed." Chu Feng contacted Lu Tong immediately. "What?" Lu Tong had already returned to the Hollow Jade Temple. He had just heaved a sigh of relief, because he knew that Chu Feng had safely gone south. He didn't expect that he would be ambushed along the way. "Where are you? I'll send someone to save you." Lu Tong was somewhat anxious. "I've just left Shuntian for 500 kilometers, in a mountain range to the south. This place used to be called the Qi Mountain Range," Chu Feng informed. "There's no other choice. Eat that mutant fruit," the old man informed. "What mutant fruit?" Chu Feng was flabbergasted. "Didn't Zhao Yu deliver it to you?" Lu Tong was horrified. "No, I have to escape." Chu Feng quickly hung up because the two monsters in the sky were already swooping down. Chu Feng stood on the ground and said to the flying mutant beside him, "You, hurry up and leave. Take to the air right now. Their target is only me." "But, no buts." Chu Feng told him to leave and dashed into the forest. He thought for a moment and ran in a certain direction. Hollow Jade Temple. "Where's Zhao Yu?" Lu Tong roared. Zhao Yu was ambushed and is on the verge of death. He was already unconscious by the time he was sent to the hospital, someone reported. What? Lu Tong frowned. He then contacted the Peacock King's descendant and said in a cold voice, Kong Xing, aren't you afraid that you won't be able to protect yourself? Kong Xing's voice was calm as he replied, Senior Lu, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the explosion of the air bubble in the south? With a bang, the little bug in the air bubble died. He's too weak. I'm not even interested in paying attention to him, much less making a move. You. Very well, I'll let you be arrogant for now. Lu Tong was furious. In the living room, Kong Xing put down the communicator and looked towards the south through the window. So weak. The plane broke into pieces. He's dead for sure. Even if he doesn't die, the two elders will tear him to pieces. On this day, many armed helicopters flew towards the south with fierce firepower. In the afternoon, Chu Feng was covered in blood. He was no match for the two quasi-beast kings chasing after him. These two were much stronger than the crippled ash wolf. After a brief contact, Chu Feng understood that these two were just short of an opportunity to become a true beast king. At the very least, they had already reached that level in terms of strength. What they lacked was divine instinct and speed. After becoming a beast king, one's divine instinct would be terrifying and they would not fear danger. At the same time, any beast king would be able to break through the sound barrier and surpass the speed of sound while running on the ground. It was absolutely terrifying. The strength of these two beasts was extremely terrifying. They were true beast kings. Chu Feng had no way to resist and could only run away. His body was dripping with blood, and there were some terrifying wounds on his body. However, he did not utter a single word and continued to run. This was the greatest danger he had encountered, and it was a matter of life and death. Brat, you won't be able to live. Huang Yun chased after him and laughed coldly. He was somewhat angry that he had not caught up to Chu Feng after such a long time. There's no way out now. No one can save you, Kong Lin said coldly. He had transformed into his human form and was relying on his legs to chase after Chu Feng. One of his arms was drenched in blood and twisted unnaturally. That was also his wing. After running for 300 kilometers, Chu Feng heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally found that place, the silver mine. He traversed through this area and, in the end, pretended to have accidentally discovered the silver mine and the ancient tree. However, he had accidentally run too far and hurriedly ran back. What? Such a big ancient tree and it's bearing a mysterious fruit. Huang Yun and Kong Lin were astonished. One had to know that such a big mutant tree could only be found in famous mountains and great rivers. If they could obtain it, they would be able to rapidly evolve into beast kings. Scram! Kong Lin shouted at Chu Feng. He was not afraid of his injuries worsening. He endured the pain and transformed into his true form. He spread his wings and rushed over at a much faster speed than before. He pretended to attack Chu Feng but was actually rushing toward the ancient tree. Huang Yun also shouted loudly and rushed forward. The fruit was too tempting for him. Within a split second, Kong Lin screamed miserably. His lower body was wrapped up by a ball of silver light and pulled toward the silver mine. He struggled with all his might. No. Huang Yun also shouted loudly. He was also enveloped by a silver light and was struggling with all his might. Swoosh! Huang Yun rushed out, but one of his calves had disappeared. The wound was dripping with blood as he screamed in misery. Ah! Scram! Kong Lin was powerful enough to forcefully break free, but he was in a miserable state. Only the area above his chest was still there. The rest of his body had disappeared. He was drenched in blood and rapidly weakened. Swoosh! Chu Feng rushed over, raised his sword, and chopped off Kong Lin's head, killing him completely. Huang Yun screamed in fear and turned to flee. Half an hour later, Huang Yun dialed Kong Sheng's communicator. Elder Huang, it's been hard on you. It's just a small bug. You have to run so far, Kong Sheng said calmly. However, he soon felt something was wrong. Huang Yun was panting heavily. At the same time, Chu Feng contacted Lu Tong and said, "Old man, send an armed helicopter to send me to Jimen. I'm going to the pilgrimage grounds from there." At this time, nothing could shake him. He had to break through immediately and grasp the power to fight against Beast Kings. Chapter 123. Where are you? What's the situation? Old man Lu Tong was incomparably anxious. How could Chu Feng survive with two quasi-beast kings chasing after him? It was simply a fatal blow. The outside world was in chaos. News had leaked out that Chu Feng was dead. Beasts had torn apart the passenger plane and killed him outside Shuntian. Especially when he had his wheelchair pushed out and showed his face. That frivolous attitude almost implied that he had something to do with Chu Feng's death. Now, the outside world was in an uproar. It could be said that the public was enraged. Many people were so angry that they couldn't take it anymore. In the morning, people were still praising Chu Feng's heroic feat of killing the ash wolf. Who would have thought that they would hear such grievous news at noon? Near the silver mine, Chu Feng glanced at his communicator. There were many missed calls from his parents, relatives, and friends. "I'm fine. I'm near the silver mine. Send someone to pick me up as soon as possible." "It's already been arranged. Just wait patiently," Lu Tong replied. He couldn't help but ask, "Where are the two quasi-beast kings?" "I killed one and the other escaped," Chu Feng replied. His body was covered in blood and his injuries weren't light. This was the biggest crisis he had ever encountered. "What? You killed one?" Lu Tong cried out in shock. He had thought of many possibilities, but never had he expected Chu Feng to be able to kill a quasi-beast king. This was not a crippled ash wolf, but too in perfect condition. Who below the king level could be a match for him? "Wait for the news. I'll send out some updates," Chu Feng said coldly. Since the matter had become so serious, there was nothing else to be concerned about. There was no need to hide anything. He wanted to slap those beasts in the face. "Mom, don't cry. I'm fine." Chu Feng contacted his parents and immediately heard Wang Jing sobbing. She was worried sick because the entire internet was in an uproar. Everyone was saying that Chu Feng was dead. It could be said that the impact of today's events was too great. Everyone was paying close attention to it, and many were incomparably indignant. Some even wanted to declare war against the beast race. The human expert who killed the Ash Wolf King was a great achievement, but he was killed in the end. Not only that, he was also looked down upon by Huang Shaoxian and the other beast race members. Many people were so angry that they were trembling. Kong Sheng's smile froze on his face as he spoke to Huang Yun. This was the first time his eyes had turned so cold. It wasn't good news, but bad news. Kong Lin was dead, beheaded by Chu Feng. Even Huang Yun was severely injured. "There's a silver mine there. It's too strange. It actually evolved into a metallic life form. It's definitely a king-level entity." Huang Yun gasped for breath. He had almost died. He had lost a leg at the silver mine. Chu Feng had suppressed him with his speed, and he had almost been killed in that area. In the room, Huang Xiaoxian's face was deathly pale. He wished he could stand up and run to the rooftop to howl. How is this possible? He was merely a human youth, yet he managed to injure and kill one quasi-kings. "There's news on the internet. That Chu Feng has appeared," Miao Fei said. Chu Feng logged into his personal platform. He rarely used it, but today, he was very high-profile. He posted a picture with accompanying text. This was a selfie. His body was covered in blood, but he was full of vigor. Beside him was a huge head emitting a multicolored radiance. It was actually a peacock's head. One could feel its power even through the internet. It was emitting a terrifying aura, incomparably malevolent and dripping with blood. Below the picture was a line of text added by Chu Feng, killed by chance while hunting in the outskirts. Oh my God! The internet was in an uproar. Seeing this news, everyone was sure that Chu Feng was safe and sound. His body was covered in blood. The fact that he had killed such a peacock was enough to prove that something was amiss. According to the picture, a specialist had roughly identified that the peacock's head wasn't simple. It belonged to a quasi-king level beast. At present, only Kong Xing had such a person by his side. His name was Kong Lin. Boom! This time, the internet was truly in an uproar. Chu Feng had killed a quasi-king level beast? This was earth-shattering. Boss, you're too awesome. Ouyang Qing let out a long howl. He decisively left a message below, expressing his excitement and joy. Chu Feng, it's good that you're alright. Yi Qingru also left a message. Earlier, they couldn't contact Chu Feng, but now they were completely relieved. Boss, I almost cried earlier. I thought you were really killed by them. Who would have thought that you went hunting? What a great kill, haha. Du Huijin laughed wildly. That picture and the line of text left by Chu Feng were simply a perfect match. Killed by chance while hunting in the outskirts. People were in heated discussion and frantically reposted the post. This picture instantly went viral on the internet, and the line of text made many people feel incomparably happy. After seeing this, Kong Xing's body erupted with purple light, revealing a powerful killing intent. His eyes shot out two terrifying beams of light, and his devilishly handsome face was filled with coldness. The people in the room didn't dare to make a sound. They all knew that he was incomparably furious. An expert of the peacock race had been killed just like that, and his picture had even been posted around. He really deserves to die. He's too arrogant. Huang Shaoxian said hatefully. Haha, this is great. Old man Lu Tong laughed heartily after seeing the picture. His previous gloominess was swept away. Very soon, Chu Feng's second picture was posted. It was a yellow weasel's tail, but it was too big. It was several meters long, fluffy, and dazzling with golden luster. Chu Feng stood in front of the huge tail, still taking a selfie. His body was covered in blood as he took a picture with the tail. Below, there was also a line of text. There's no cure for the stench. Let it escape. The text was simple, but it was enough to explain the situation. This once again caused a huge uproar. Some people immediately guessed that this was a quasi-beast king of the yellow weasel bloodline. Soon after, a specialist came out to verify that this was indeed Huang Yun's tail. At present, among the quasi-beast kings of the yellow weasel bloodline, it was the only one in Shuntian. Oh my God, is this true? Another quasi-beast king with its tail cut off. In the end, it escaped using the stench. Everyone knew that the yellow weasel bloodline's stench was unbearable. Who would have thought that Chu Feng would be attacked by a quasi-beast king's stench? This time, the picture was not only sensational, but also somewhat comical. Many people couldn't help but burst into laughter. It was only 2 pictures, but the anger in people's hearts had been swept away. Moreover, they felt incomparably comfortable and carefree. Ah, Huang Shaoxian cried out loudly. He couldn't stand this kind of humiliation. The quasi-beast king of his bloodline was actually in such a miserable state. Even his tail had been cut off by Chu Feng. Force him out for me. I want to kill him with my own hands. Kong Xing's devilishly handsome face was incomparably cold. His killing intent pervaded the air as a terrifying power emanated from his body. After sending out these 2 pictures, Chu Feng was telling everyone that he was fine. Rumble, an armed helicopter landed near the silver mine. Originally, there were many helicopters in the vicinity waiting for reinforcements. After receiving Lu Tong's order, they rushed over immediately. Chu Feng boarded the helicopter and rushed to Tianjin. Shuntian had become a whirlpool of trouble and was occupied by the beast race. If he were to take off from there was no telling if he would be attacked. Lu Tong completely agreed. He also felt that it was best to set off from Tianjin. At this time, the old man was constantly contacting people and discussing with them. He told the people in Tianjin to get ready. As soon as Chu Feng arrived, they would immediately send out a helicopter to escort him to the pilgrimage grounds. Chu Feng arrived in Tianjin without a hitch. He then took off from there, whistling through the air as he headed south towards his destination. He left, but there was a clamor behind him. The commotion was too big. After the 2 pictures were sent out, it shocked every region. It spread from the internet to all the major powers. Everyone was trying to guess how he had done it. After all, he wasn't a king-level expert yet. He should have other methods. Huang Yun fled back with a broken leg and a missing tail. He was so angry that he wanted nothing more than to massacre everyone in the city. But he didn't dare to do so. This was Shuntian. Even the weasel's ancestor wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. This despicable human, he lured us to a terrifying silver mine. Huang Yun vented his anger in private. After the news spread, people didn't sympathize with him at all. They all applauded and felt that Chu Feng was decisive, resourceful, and brave. This was how he should deal with the 2 quasi-beast kings. Huang Yun and Huang Shaoxian were about to explode from anger. Kong Xing's face was filled with dark clouds. He had used everything he had to stop Chu Feng from leaving, but to no avail. Not long after, Huang Shaoxian became listless. Even Huang Yun wasn't in a good mood. That was because their ancestor had directly sent someone to reprimand them. The ancestor despises us, saying that we are too shameful. Huang Shaoxian was somewhat terrified. He knew the ancestor's temper. This meant that he was extremely angry. However, one couldn't blame the Beast King for being angry. After 2 battles, their branch had become a laughingstock. A quasi-beast king's tail had been cut off and exposed to the public. How could this not cause a commotion? What instructions does Senior Huang have? Kong Xing asked. Huang Shaoxian replied, "The ancestor is angry and will send another quasi-beast king. He said that Chu Feng must be killed to wash away this humiliation. Our clan will also send 2 seniors," Kong Xing said coldly. After the news spread, the Peacock clan was in an uproar. The Peacock clan was full of experts and extremely arrogant. With the Peacock King as their leader, they were known as unrivaled experts who had swept through the world and had never tasted defeat until now. How could such a proud clan tolerate Kong Lin's head being cut off? They swore to kill Chu Feng and use his blood as a sacrifice for Kong Lin. Huang Xiaoxian's eyes flickered. "We don't lack experts at the moment. It's enough to crush him. But what if he doesn't show himself? Are we going to use his parents to threaten him? Let's wait and see. Don't act rashly for the time being." Kong Xing gave him a cold glance. Because the implications were too great. If they dared to barge into the Hollow Jade Temple, they might anger the 3 supreme experts of the 8 Visions Temple, the Hollow Jade Temple and the Roaming Jade Temple. On the evening of the 2nd day, Chu Feng's plane landed as he approached the pilgrimage grounds. No mountain is greater than this, and history is more ancient than this. During the pre-Qin era, the ancient emperors of ancient times offered sacrifices to the heavens at this place. Later on, when Emperor Qin unified the world, he chose this place for the pilgrimage. Since then, successive dynasties, including Emperor Wu of Han, have all come here to offer sacrifices to the heavens and the earth. After the great upheavals, this should be the most suitable place for humanity to rise. Chu Feng got off the plane and gazed at the majestic mountain. Another chapter. In a while, it will be published after midnight. There will be at least 2 chapters. I hope that my brothers and sisters will subscribe and support me. If you have a monthly ticket, please vote for the Holy Ground. Chapter 124. This was Mount Tai, majestic, majestic, and towering. In ancient times, this place was thought to be the origin of all living things. After the upheaval, Mount Tai changed as well. It became more and more majestic. Chu Feng walked out of the airport. Someone picked him up and sent him to the city at the foot of Mount Tai so that he could rest for the night. But how could he wait any longer? He couldn't wait to climb up the mountain. The situation was dire, and he didn't know what would happen after he left. Although Lu Tong patted his chest and assured him that the beasts would not dare to barge into the hollow jade temple and that his parents' safety was not an issue, he still felt a little uneasy. Other than his parents, would Yi Qingru, Du Huaijin, and Chen Luoyan be attacked? He had already told them to wait in the hollow jade temple, and not to go out. They were to quietly wait for his return. He thought of other people. There were too many people related to him. We really can't climb the mountain tonight because there's a great battle going on. The experts led by the Peacock King are going to rise in revolt. Su Ming told him that the current situation was extremely grim. What's going on? Chu Feng asked. Su Ming was also a mutant of the Hollow Jade Temple. These days, he would be following Chu Feng to help out and handle various matters. He opened his mouth and said, "It can be said that an inch of land is an inch of blood." The battle on Mount Tai was too intense. There were corpses everywhere from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain. The stone steps were dyed red with blood. A while ago, all kinds of advanced firearms were used to kill the beasts. However, they were useless against the top-grade Beast Kings. They could only kill beasts below the Beast King level. There were more powerful weapons, but they couldn't use them for fear of destroying the pilgrimage grounds. If that happened, they wouldn't be able to obtain anything at all. On the human side, many people had died. Do we only have 3 peerless experts on our side? Chu Feng frowned. He had a premonition that this place was too dangerous. Could they really take it down? No, some Beast Kings are on our side, Su Ming informed. Some of the Beast Kings didn't want to deal with the Peacock King's group of experts and join forces with the humans to resist them. Otherwise, more humans would have died here. Chu Feng listened attentively to understand the situation at the pilgrimage grounds. Recently, the battle had become more and more desperate. Even Beast Kings had fallen and Mount Tai was dyed red with blood. Tonight, there would be a peerless battle. At that time, the Hollow Jade Temple Master would have a showdown with the Peacock King. Before this, they had already fought many fierce battles, but a victor had yet to be determined. The other kings would also participate in the battle. Beast roars were destined to shake the heavens, and it was likely that more king-level experts would fall. What's so strange about the mountaintop? Chu Feng asked. He didn't know why the Peacock King's obsession was so deep that he wanted to fight with the humans for this place. In his opinion, this was the humans' holy land. Rumor has it that there is a mysterious inheritance here. The Peacock King came for it. Su Ming explained in detail. The Peacock King had risen to power in the southwest. It had seen some records on the stone walls there. They were ancient engravings that said that the saint of the Peacock bloodline had once flown to Mount Tai and most likely left behind an inheritance. That was why the Peacock King went crazy and wanted to seize this place no matter what. In fact, it already has a complete breathing technique, but it wants more, Su Ming said. What other powerful characters are there? Chu Feng asked. After all, the top experts of the 8 Visions Temple, the Hollow Jade Temple, and the Roaming Jade Temple had all come to join the expedition to the pilgrimage grounds. The enemy was definitely not as simple as the Peacock King. It could be assumed that there were other powerful experts among the Beast Kings. Su Ming nodded and said, "There's also a crow, but it's very special. Most of its black feathers have fallen off and some have grown golden feathers. Some people speculate that it might evolve into a golden crow. In truth, this crow had already been respectfully called the Golden Crow King. It was said that it had once seen a stone inscription on a certain mountain. The inscription recorded that the Golden Crow's ancestor had once landed on the summit of Mount Tai. The Cloud Leopard King and the Nine Lives Cat King are also here. Their strength is extremely terrifying. Su Ming told Chu Feng about the terrifying beast kings here. Moreover, he revealed that the Nine Lives Cat King and the others had also heard that their ancestors had come to Mount Tai. That was why they had killed their way up. Chu Feng understood many things as he listened. It seemed that the predecessors of every race had come here before. Even saints had appeared. This was truly terrifying. Just what was hidden on Mount Tai? Since ancient times, the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors of the human race had personally come here to offer sacrifices to the heavens. Following that, the succession of successive dynasties continued. After the beast race awakened, they also discovered that their ancestors had come here before. They wanted to get to the bottom of this. Chu Feng asked. They must have reached the summit long ago due to the continuous battles. Didn't they discover anything? Of course they did. The summit was stained with blood. However, the summit is too strange. Up until now, no one has made any great gains. Su Ming also had many suspicions when he mentioned the summit. The summit was sparkling and translucent with flowing luster. However, there was also a dense mist that made it impossible to see through. Regardless of whether it was the peerless experts of the human race or the peerless beast kings of the beast race, all of them had killed their way up there. They had charged in and discovered that the world was simply too vast. It's not as simple as the summit. The space is very vast. There are dilapidated underground palaces and grand halls. Su Ming explained. He then added, so much so that the Golden Crow believed that he had sensed a purebred Golden Crow egg there. He wanted to penetrate the mist to find it but failed. He could no longer sense it. What a mysterious pilgrimage ground! Chu Feng muttered to himself. All the races were obsessed with this place. They wanted to conquer it and take it for themselves. What kind of sacred trees are there here? This was what Chu Feng wanted to know the most. Su Ming replied, there was more than one mysterious ancient tree after the summit expanded. However, some of them were withered and had yet to recover their vitality. Some had just sprouted. Chu Feng frowned. Was this not the right time? There are also ancient trees in the depths shrouded in mist. One could vaguely smell a faint fragrance. Apparently, they are in the middle of blooming. However, no one has ever approached them. That place is very strange. Chu Feng immediately understood after hearing this. That place was not ordinary at all. Even the Beast Kings couldn't find the exact location of the blooming sacred tree. His heart was burning with passion. It didn't matter even if he couldn't find the blooming sacred tree because he had a snow-white seed on him. Chu Feng could borrow the power of Mount Tai to plant his own seed. Perhaps he could also break through to the king level. He was quite confident in that seed. After experiencing its growth last time, it seemed to have undergone a metamorphosis and looked completely different from before. This time, perhaps it could grow into an even more astonishing plant. At night, Chu Feng stood in front of the window and gazed at the majestic mountain. After the upheaval, it had grown several times bigger. Moreover, according to Su Ming, it was still expanding. In other regions, many desolate mountains had appeared. The original mountain would not change much, but it was completely different here. With Mount Tai as the center, it towered into the clouds and grew increasingly majestic. At this rate, it would almost reach the heavens. Boom! At night, a bolt of lightning streaked across the sky and illuminated the mountain. A peerless battle had erupted in the vicinity of Mount Tai. Chu Feng saw a multicolored peacock traversing the sky and loftily standing in the air. It looked down at the humans on the stone steps of Mount Tai and launched a sudden attack. The decisive battle had arrived. From tonight onwards, it would determine the victor between the peacock and the hollow jade temple master. Boom! In midair, the peacock suddenly transformed into a heroic young man. He was even more handsome than Kong Sheng. It was almost unreal. Just like that, he swooped down from the sky and attacked the human experts. Rumble, the heaven and earth seemed to have been torn apart. The entire area was illuminated by a resplendent radiance. The Peacock King had obtained an ancient inheritance and was using the Wisdom King's fist imprint to fight a person on the ground. He had actually transformed into a human instead of fighting with his true form. That place erupted with blazing radiance. This kind of fist imprint was enough to tear apart mountains and pulverize all living things. However, Mount Tai was different from before. It could withstand such a huge impact without being affected. This was its miraculous ability. The Hollow Jade Temple Master was about to face the Peacock King in battle. Chu Feng wanted to see what was going on, but unfortunately, he was not allowed to set foot there. This could be considered a form of protection for him. All non-king level entities had retreated from Mount Tai. With his current eyesight, he could not see clearly because he was too far away and because the two were emitting blazing radiance. It was as if two divine kings were fighting for supremacy. Before long, they had fought their way to the other side of the mountain and could no longer see anything. Following which, Chu Feng saw a terrifying golden crow appear in the night sky. It was engulfed in raging flames as it swooped down to meet the 8 Visions Temple Master head-on. Following which, the other beast kings took the stage one after another. Momentarily, the roars of the beast kings shook the heaven and earth. The entire majestic Mount Tai seemed to be trembling. The most intense and terrifying battle was taking place on Mount Tai. The fall of any one of them would have far-reaching consequences. Only after midnight did the sounds of battle gradually die down and the roars of beasts disappeared. "How is it?" Chu Feng inquired. Su Ming was walking in from outside. He had gone to scout for information. The 3 peerless experts of the 8 Visions Temple, Hollow Jade Temple, and Roaming Jade Temple have all been injured and are currently recuperating. What? Chu Feng was astonished. The Peacock King and Golden Crow King have also been injured and stained Mount Tai with their blood. The battle has yet to be decided and will continue tomorrow. You just have to wait patiently for an opportunity. Su Ming informed him that the fiercer the battle and the more serious their injuries were, the greater Chu Feng's chances. According to past experience, only when the peerless experts were resting would the others have the opportunity to ascend the mountain in search of fortunes. However, up until now, no one had been able to obtain an astonishing harvest from the pilgrimage grounds. On the second day, the battle began once again and the experts fought endlessly. Regrettably, the few powerhouses were still unable to determine the winner and loser. During this period, Chu Feng used his communicator to check on the situation in the outside world. Many people were looking for him, but he had no way to reply to them one by one. "You're all courting death." Chu Feng saw a message from Huang Shaoxian. The message clearly stated that if he didn't show up, he would deal with his parents. Chu Feng's eyes were incomparably sharp. Following that, he saw some other news reports. There were rumors on the internet that the Peacock lineage and Bodhi biogenetics were about to collaborate and attack Mount Putuo. Jiang Luoshan came from Bodhi biogenetics and was seen entertaining Kong Sheng's group in the past 2 days. In addition, Kong Sheng had also been to Jiangning City and had some contact with celestial biology. He had even requested to see Lin. "Are you trying to humiliate me? You want me to leave?" Chu Feng muttered to himself. That was because many people now knew that he had a past with Linui. Not long ago, there were even some ambiguous rumors about him and Jiang Luoshan. "Demons, monsters, and demons, just wait until I break through in the pilgrimage grounds. I'll kill all of you when I return." Chu Feng immediately switched off his communicator and calmed his heart, waiting for the day to ascend the mountain. On the 3rd day, Su Ming came to inform him that he was going to ascend the mountain that night because the battle between the Beast Kings was about to end. As expected, the battle broke out at night and ended late at night. Chu Feng's steps were firm as he began to ascend the mountain. There was still a chapter after that. Please subscribe, please support the holy ground. Chapter 125. Under the night sky, Mount Tai appeared even more majestic and majestic. Walking on the stone steps, one could not help but feel their own insignificance. Compared to the eternal sacred mountain, everything else seemed insignificant. Chu Feng's speed was fast. Wrapped in a windbreaker, he climbed up the mountain. Along the way, he saw some mutants from the Eight Visions Temple, Hollow Jade Temple, and Roaming Jade Temple. The battle between the peerless experts had ended. This place belonged to these people to seek fortunes. Other than that, there were also mutants, many more than humans. There were water buffaloes with silver horns, golden cats, and even hedgehogs with spikes all over their bodies. These beasts were not ordinary and far surpassed ordinary beasts. Their bodies were not very big, but they all emitted a terrifying aura. Chu Feng estimated that some of them were at the 8th or 9th level of the awakened realm, but they were not quasi-beast kings. In addition, there were also mutants in human form, maintaining some of their own race's characteristics. For example, there was a beautiful fox girl who looked like a human but had a few snow-white fox tails. Obviously, even after eating the transformed fruit, she had purposely left some parts of her body intact. Those were the source of her battle strength. Along the way, the mutants and beasts did not fight. They were all climbing the mountain at high speed. This was out of Chu Feng's expectations. He thought they would have to fight to the death. A mutant told him, "The great battle has just ended. This is a rare opportunity. No one will waste their energy halfway. Unless there is a fortune at the peak, no one will fight for the time being." Chu Feng had been to Mount Tai before and found that it was completely different. After the upheaval, Mount Tai had grown many times larger. It was almost as tall as the sky. Along the way, few people spoke. Everyone was rushing forward at top speed. Chu Feng strode forward, the wind whistling as he reached the subsonic speed. He couldn't wait any longer. He wanted to go to the mountain top and find the mysterious ancient tree. Even if he couldn't find a blossoming flower bud, he wanted to find a place to plant the seed on his body. Along the way, he was as fast as lightning. Many mutants who could fly were left behind by him. Along the way, the decorated archway named Southern Heavenly Gate came into view. It had not collapsed and was still standing. This place was very close to the peak of Mount Tai. Now, the words Southern Heavenly Gate possessed a special aura. After arriving here, it was already misty and indistinct. Mount Tai was now too tall, long above the clouds. In a trance, people felt that they had really arrived at the heavenly palace. Chu Feng arrived and rushed to the higher part of Mount Tai. The mist here was extremely heavy. There were clouds everywhere, indistinct and unreal. This kind of mist was somewhat strange. It could actually block one's divine sense, which was very different from normal mist. It was no wonder that even the Beast Kings were not as sensitive here. The highest point of Mount Tai was called Jade Emperor Peak. It was also the highest point of the mountain. When Chu Feng climbed up, he could see that the nearby cliffs were flowing with multicolored light. It was very holy, but the surrounding fog was still very thick. Jade Emperor Peak was larger than he had imagined. It was empty, as if he had come to a strange world. This place was completely different from Mount Tai in the past. Broken walls and rubble piled up into hills. There were many ancient architectural remains here, but they couldn't withstand the erosion of time and had already collapsed. Chu Feng did not bother to search. If there was anything good, it would have long been taken away by the Beast King and the others. What he was interested in was the ancient tree. Was there a large amount of mutant soil underground? Very soon, he discovered a huge tree. It was so big that two people couldn't even wrap their arms around it. At a glance, one could tell that it was extraordinary. Although it was withered, There was flowing light flashing on its body from time to time. A resurrecting sacred tree? Chu Feng stopped in his tracks. He squatted down and started digging on the ground, trying to verify his conjecture. There really is mutant soil. Chu Feng was shaken. His heart was in turmoil. Under the layer of soil, the mutant soil was sparse. It was the size of a fist, but its color was slightly dim. It seemed that the mysterious energy contained within was insufficient. But this should be enough, right? Chu Feng was so excited that he almost shouted out loud. He felt that the snow-white seed was enough to germinate here. No matter how much mutant soil it needed, it should be enough. Suddenly, a murderous intent attacked straight at the back of his head. Chu Feng's pupils constricted as he moved sideways. An iron spear flew past him and nailed into the soil with a thump. If he had been one step slower, the back of his head would have been pierced. Chu Feng's pupils turned cold. He felt that the attacker was ruthless. It was a mutant. His body was wrapped in a cloak, hiding his face. Although they were both humans, he actually launched a sneak attack on Chu Feng. This made Chu Feng realize that there was no safety in this place. Everyone had to be on their guard. What did you find? The mutant's voice was a little hoarse. He saw Chu Feng squatting down and digging. He thought that Chu Feng had found something and wanted to rob him of his fortune. None of your business, Chu Feng said coldly. He attacked. This person was not a kind person. Since he wanted to kill him, there was no need for him to be polite. Whoosh! He dashed over and used the Xing and Yi fist. His hands formed the shape of a tiger, and with a boom, he smashed forward like a mountain. This person was shocked. He was very strong, but the person he met here was even more abnormal. He immediately realized that he was not a match for Chu Feng. Don't misunderstand, we are both humans, he shouted. The two iron spears in his hands pierced forward, blocking Chu Feng's fist. Clang! The two iron spears were all broken by Chu Feng's fist. He could even shatter a 2-foot-thick steel wall, let alone such a weapon. Boom! This person was sent flying and crashed into a mountain rock, coughing up blood. You keep saying that you are a human, yet you sneak attacked me and wanted to take my life. People like you are a scourge. I wonder if you have killed others. Pooh! Chu Feng kicked the broken spear on the ground and sent it flying into the chest of that person. He turned around and left. There was more than one holy tree. He had to choose a more remote place. It would be best if no one stepped on it. Only then would it be convenient for him to plant the seed. Chu Feng walked into the depths of the mist. There were too many people outside. This tree, Jade Emperor Peak, was very big now. Chu Feng walked for dozens of miles but still couldn't see the end. At this time, he found a tree. It wasn't withered but had sprouts. The fresh leaves were purple and lustrous. It was definitely not an ordinary tree. Chu Feng dug up the soil layer and found that it was very bright below. There was a lot of strange soil, all of them the size of a fist, containing rich mysterious energy. The quality of this strange soil is better than the soil under the withered ancient tree. If no one passed by, this would be the best place. What are you doing? A beast shouted. The various races have an agreement not to damage a single blade of grass or tree here. Otherwise, it will be a disaster of extinction. He had transformed into a human form. Obviously, he came from a powerful royal race. Ordinary strange beasts wouldn't have such an opportunity. Just taking a look. Chu Feng turned around and left. If it was not necessary, he didn't want to get into conflict with others here. Nothing was more important than breaking through to the King realm. And to achieve this step, he had to let the snow-white seed take root and sprout. Suddenly, Chu Feng felt a wave of pressure. There was a powerful creature in front of him. It soared into the sky and flew through the mist. A quasi-beast king-level expert. Chu Feng's heart trembled. Even a creature of this level had appeared. It was definitely dangerous. He had fought against it before and knew that he couldn't fight it head-on. Especially since it was a peacock. He couldn't help but think, could it be that it was here to kill him? Chu Feng secretly raised his guard as he walked towards a desolate area. "All of you scram!" the peacock shouted from afar. It seemed to be searching for something. Chu Feng distanced himself. He wanted to find a quiet place even more urgently. "What are you doing? Do you think there's no one left in the human race?" There was actually a quasi-beast king among the humans. He appeared here and confronted the peacock. "Humph!" The peacock snorted coldly and left the area. Chu Feng continued walking. He wasn't afraid of getting lost. He was only afraid that he hadn't gone far enough. "Young lad, don't go any further. It's dangerous ahead. Even beast kings don't dare to enter carelessly. The mist is even thicker there." An old man saw Chu Feng and reminded him out of goodwill. He told Chu Feng that this place could be considered a zone of separation. It would be hard to say if one were to enter rashly. He would most likely die inside and never come out again. Chu Feng thanked him and took a detour. But in the end, he still entered. As expected, the mist here was even thicker. It was easy to get lost and lose one's sense of direction. But after entering this place, he could really smell a faint fragrance. "The rumors are true. There's a sacred tree blooming, but I can't find it." Chu Feng was astonished. He believed that there was most likely a strange folded space here. Otherwise, why couldn't he find it? He didn't force the issue and continued walking in search of a suitable place. Finally, Chu Feng found an ancient tree with some tender shoot. This place was exceptionally quiet and no one had set foot here. "It's here." Chu Feng dug the soil and found that there was indeed a lot of mutant soil flowing with a sparkling luster. There was no better place than here. Just like last time, he placed the seed in a stone box and buried it in the mutant soil. Chu Feng sat cross-legged under the tree and waited in silence. The seed he obtained from Mount Kunlun was too mysterious. Just after midnight, the sound of breaking ground could be heard. The seed had actually taken root here. An incomparably resplendent silvery light emerged from the soil. The silvery leaves were sparkling and translucent. Chu Feng was extremely excited. He sat there and guarded the seed. Success or failure would be decided tonight. If the seed grew smoothly, he would be able to use this opportunity to break through and return to Shuntian. He didn't want to think about the outside world at the moment. Otherwise, his mind wouldn't be at peace. Huang Shaoxian had actually threatened to kill his parents if he returned immediately. There was also Kong Xing. Not only did he ask Jiang Luoshan to entertain him at Bodhi Biogenetics, he even went to the headquarters of Celestial Biology at Jiangning City and asked to see Linhui. This was definitely intentional. He wanted to humiliate Chu Feng and force him to appear. Chu Feng calmed himself down and stared at the tender shoot on the ground. This time, it was even more mysterious. Accompanied by a snow-white mist, it sprouted rapidly like a celestial being dancing. Starting from one or two tender shoots, it slowly grew upwards. In the blink of an eye, it was already more than a foot tall. It was clear that it was not a vine, but a small silver tree. There were 3 branches on the trunk, and its leaves were silvery white. Half an hour later, it had already grown to a height of 1.5 meters. Its entire body was silvery white, and it shone brilliantly. "It's still growing." Chu Feng was shocked. The tree grew closer to 2 meters, and cracks appeared on its trunk. Piece after piece of silvery white old skin opened up, resembling snow-white dragon scales. It began to become vigorous, like a dormant white dragon. A gentle breeze blew past and the leaves swayed. Unexpectedly, it produced a melodious sound, like the sound of jade colliding. It was very mysterious. Chu Feng knew that this tree was no small matter. It should be able to help him break through to the immortal king realm. His greatest opportunity had arrived. I'm begging for subscriptions and monthly tickets. My new book is on the shelves. Please support me and vote for the holy ground. At the same time, I wish everyone a happy new year. May all your wishes come true and good health. Chapter 126. It was already the latter half of the night. Everything in the distance was shrouded in darkness and mist. Only here was the silvery light flowing. The night breeze blew by, causing the crystalline leaves to collide with each other. The sound was pleasing to the ear, like small and large pearls falling onto a jade plate. Chu Feng's body and mind were tranquil amidst this sound. His entire being felt empty as he experienced a special Tao rhythm. This astonished him. The sound of the silvery white leaves colliding was indeed pleasing to the ears, but why did it feel so ethereal? There was a feeling of transcendence. It was as if the sound of the great Tao was spreading out. He pondered for a moment before activating the thunderous breathing technique to temper his body. In the blink of an eye, Chu Feng's joints began to emit incessant sounds. However, these were not the usual crackling sounds. Instead, they were crisp and clear as if metal and stone were colliding. In an instant, he felt his bones go numb as a mysterious energy spread throughout his limbs and bones. Following which, his 5 viscera also began to resonate in a rhythmic manner. It was as if they were being tempered by a layer of sparkling energy. Chu Feng was astonished. The effects of the thunderous breathing technique were much better than usual. He could clearly feel his constitution becoming stronger. What was the reason for this? He gazed at the tree. Was it because of the sound of the leaves colliding? After the thunderous breathing technique ended, a small amount of substance appeared on the surface of his body. It resembled sweat and was squeezed out from his flesh. His body felt light and nimble. The effects were excellent. Chu Feng believed that he was already at the peak of the 9th level of the awakened realm. His foundations were deep enough and his chances of breaking through to the king realm were much higher. He did not use the breathing technique Yellow Cattle had taught him because he was waiting for the silver tree to blossom. That was the best time to use this technique. Everything was ready. Everything was ready. As time passed, the tree stopped growing taller after reaching 2 meters. However, it became more luxuriant as it sprouted more and more silvery white leaves. The whole place was snow-white as silver light poured down in torrents. In addition, the trunk was becoming thicker and more vigorous. It did not look like it had grown in a single night. Instead, it was like an old tree that was hundreds of years old. The old bark was cracked and coarse, yet it was silvery white. Chu Feng touched the tree with his hand and felt a powerful pulse of life. It condensed a vigorous life force. Suddenly, life force surged, silver light shining down. A speck appeared at the top of this tree, condensing rich life force. It was extremely astonishing. In the blink of an eye, it was as if a small sun blossomed there. Flower buds took shape and gradually emerged. Chu Feng had been looking forward to it for a long time. He hoped that it would grow quickly and bloom. As expected, the flower bud on the silver tree grew from a very small bud to the size of a thumb in a short period of time. The crown of the tree sprinkled down a silver rain of light, making it look extremely divine. This place was covered in silver, and from afar, it looked like a mythical world. Precious trees grew, and there were deities sitting cross-legged under them. Chu Feng was very quiet, staring at the flower bud. Suddenly, he sensed a faint ripple coming from the distance, causing him to frown. In another misty region, there were creatures approaching, quietly hurrying over. The obstruction of the mist affected Chu Feng's divine instincts, but his hearing was still far superior to ordinary people. He frowned as he heard an almost inaudible sound. He didn't want such a thing to happen the most. He wanted to wait quietly for the silver tree to bloom without being disturbed. He had already gone far enough, and even ordinary beast kings might get lost in here. In the end, there were still people like Chu Feng who weren't afraid of death and had snuck in. That creature was very cautious. It moved stealthily and hid its tracks. It circled behind Chu Feng and only approached after a quarter of an hour. Then, it suddenly leapt up and pounced forward. One could see that its sharp claws were several meters long in the darkness. It was flashing with cold light as it tore at Chu Feng's neck. This was a cloud leopard. Its body was huge and covered in dense stripe. It was emitting a dangerous aura, and within its bloody mouth, its fangs were several meters long. It was quite a frightening sight. It wanted to kill Chu Feng in one strike. This was a very powerful beast. It could see that the silver tree was extraordinary. Moreover, it even had a flower bud, which meant that there was a great fortune here. Beasts and humans could coexist in harmony in this region, but that was on the premise that there were no benefits. Once there was a shocking discovery, there would be countless casualties. Thump! Chu Feng quickly turned around and kicked at its large claw. A cracking sound rang out as the beast's claw was broken. The cloud leopard was horrified. Its fur stood on end. It knew that it had kicked an iron plate. It opened its bloody mouth and was about to roar. Thump! Chu Feng didn't give it the chance. His whole body soared into the air, so fast that the cloud leopard couldn't react in time. With a bang, he kicked the space between its brows, which immediately shattered. Plop! The cloud leopard fell to the ground. Its mouth was wide open, but it couldn't make a sound. Fresh blood was gushing out from its forehead. Chu Feng no longer looked at it and frowned. He was somewhat worried. He had already walked far enough. How could he run into other creatures? What if someone disturbed the flower bud at the most crucial moment? He was somewhat worried. Although this place was good and could promote the growth of the seed, it was also troublesome. I hope everything goes smoothly. Next, the flower bud on the silver tree grew to the size of a fist, and was still growing. However, it was slower this time. It only grew a little bigger after an hour had passed. If this goes on, the sky will be bright soon. Chu Feng looked at the time. It was already past midnight. Why did it slow down? This puzzled him. At the beginning, the tree grew rapidly and grew to almost 2 meters tall. Time passed, and the latter half of the night was very quiet. Fortunately, no other creatures approached. It was very peaceful here, and even the wind had disappeared. Finally, as dawn approached, there were no changes to the tree. The flower bud grew to the size of a bowl, full and brilliant. Silver light rippled in all directions. Vaguely, a faint fragrance filled the air. At this moment, Chu Feng was truly nervous because the critical moment had arrived. In the distance, the sound of running could be heard. It was as if someone was fleeing for his life, but in the end, he did not approach this place. Following which, he heard the ear-piercing cry of an eagle. It was as if metal plates were rubbing against each other. It was a terrifying creature flapping its wings in the mist. "Don't come over," Chu Feng prayed. "Otherwise, it would be very troublesome." Pop! As dawn arrived, a crack appeared on the flower bud. Strands of multicolored light blossomed and a sweet fragrance assailed his nostrils. But that was all. Soon after, the flower bud became motionless and even the fragrance was restrained. Why is the flower blooming so slow? It's not as fast as last time. Chu Feng was bewildered. Finally, the sun rose from the east. The sounds of intense fighting could be heard. It was very far away, but Chu Feng could hear it. It was very likely that it was a quasi-beast king, because the commotion was too great. The eagle's ear-splitting cry reverberated in the mist. A terrifying aura pervaded the air. Chu Feng sighed inwardly. How unlucky. He had encountered a quasi-beast king fighting in such a remote place. Pop! At this time, one of the flower buds on the silver tree finally bloomed. Moreover, at this moment the sun had just risen. Strands of multicolored light seeped through the mist and sprinkled down upon the silver tree, triggering an intense transformation. In the blink of an eye, The silver tree had transformed into a golden color. It had completely transformed. Moreover, the bowl-sized flower bud was no longer the same. It was as if it was cast from gold. As the multicolored light sprinkled down, it seemed to have accelerated its growth. In the blink of an eye, it had transformed into a golden tree, following which golden multicolored light shot out in all directions as the flower bud bloomed in its entirety. All the petals opened up at the same time and golden mist spread outwards, enveloping Chu Feng within. He was astonished. He guessed that the reason the tree's growth had slowed down was because it was waiting for the rising sun. The strangest thing was that the mist within the bowl-sized flower was also shining brightly like the multicolored light of the morning as it shone down upon Chu Feng's body. Having learned from last time, he calmly used his special breathing technique to absorb the mysterious pollen. He had long since prepared for this. He took off his windbreaker and other items to cool himself down. In the blink of an eye, his pores relaxed as the golden mist seeped into his body through his skin. As for his mouth and nose, it was needless to say that they were filled with the golden multicolored light of dawn. The fragrance filled his mouth and nose. Chu Feng was almost intoxicated by it. This kind of fragrance was so intoxicating that he almost couldn't extricate himself. His whole body felt comfortable. There was a mysterious energy circulating within his body as he circulated his special breathing technique. It was warm and comfortable. Chu Feng had the illusion that he was about to ascend to immortality. The fragrance of the flower seeped deep into his bones. There wasn't a single part of his body that wasn't fragrant. His flesh, bones, and organs were all being nourished by the golden mist. Especially when he circulated his breathing technique, the speed at which he absorbed the golden mist increased. His whole body trembled. Chu Feng could clearly feel that he was evolving. His constitution was strengthening rapidly. Toward the end, his joints were trembling as if metal and stone were colliding. His organs were rumbling as if they were surrounded by lightning. It could be seen that there was a layer of sticky substance on the surface of Chu Feng's body. It was something that had been expelled. His body was undergoing astonishing changes. Under the layer of sticky substance, Chu Feng's body was like divine gold and contained astonishing power. His flesh was trembling, his bones were colliding, and his organs were resonating. He was in the midst of a rapid evolution. Just like last time, the fragrance of the flower didn't spread far after it bloomed. Instead, it turned into a golden mist and enveloped Chu Feng's body like the multicolored light of dawn. This kind of mysterious pollen didn't spread far. It was only a few meters away from him. Thump, thump, thump within Chu Feng's body. His heart was beating like a drum. The sound was deafening and his blood was rushing to his limbs and bones. Toward the end, Chu Feng's heartbeat became louder and louder. Moreover, as he circulated his breathing technique, his whole body underwent astonishing changes. It became increasingly translucent and translucent. Toward the end, his hair began to grow rapidly and hung down to his waist, emitting a brilliant radiance. His bones were colliding continuously as if they were producing blood and transforming his body beyond his original physique. Chu Feng experienced a great power that far surpassed the past. He was advancing and his constitution was rising continuously. His whole body was like a divine furnace, containing boundless energy. Toward the end, his body turned a faint golden color and even his hair seemed to be dyed with a golden luster. Thump, thump, thump. At this moment, his heartbeat became even more terrifying. It was so powerful that an ordinary human would be shocked if they were standing here. However, Chu Feng felt great. His body was undergoing intense changes and beams of light shot out from his eyes. He was breaking through to the shackled realm and could contend against a beast king. Boom! Chu Feng's body trembled violently. It was as if his body had connected with something. His hearing and vision became sharp, and even his divine instinct, which had been obstructed by the mist, had recovered and was even more powerful. The Holy Ground should be breaking the first-day subscription record for new book. Requesting for subscriptions. At the same time, requesting for monthly tickets. Chapter 127. Chu Feng knew that his constitution was evolving at a rapid pace. It was simply too fast. In the blink of an eye, his body seemed to have broken free from some kind of shackles. His entire being felt light and agile. His divine instincts and 5 senses were astonishing. His whole body was glowing like a golden sun. He felt as if he was about to explode as beams of golden light shot out from his body. His long hair, which had suddenly grown long, danced in the wind. 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes, making him look like a demonic god. Chu Feng felt extremely comfortable. All his pores had opened up and were frantically devouring the life essence around him. As for the golden mist pouring down from the flower, it was being absorbed by him in an endless stream. He felt as if he had been living in a swamp in the past. Now that he had broken free, he felt as if he had become ethereal and free. King-level power, huh? Chu Feng lowered his head and clenched his fist. He felt as if there was an immortal divine furnace within his body that was providing him with energy and vitality. Now, a casual punch from him could penetrate a 2-foot-thick steel wall. There was no need for him to use the dragon and tiger contending technique of the Xingyi fist. The power within his body was ferocious and tyrannical. If he were to encounter Kong Lin and Huang Yun again, he would definitely not run away. He had also grasped this kind of power, king-level power. At the same time, his divine instincts were even stronger than those too. Full of vigor, he examined himself internally and finally saw the true state of his body. His whole body was shrouded in layers of light as if they were shackles. I already felt that breaking free from the shackles was like escaping from a swamp. But now, it seems that this is just the beginning. Chu Feng came to a realization. Even after leaving the swamp and breaking free from the swamp, he found that there were still many immortal shackles binding his body. These were the so-called shackles. One day, he would have to break them. At this moment, Chu Feng deeply understood that the so-called beast kings were all wearing shackles. Even though their battle prowess was world-shaking and they were unparalleled under the heavens, although their combat strength was shocking and they were unparalleled in the world, they knew that they still had a long way to go. Even without guidance, they knew that they had to break free from the shackles in order to enjoy true freedom. Awakened, shackled, and unfettered, the 3 great realms. Chu Feng completely understood these 3 realms. He explained the names very clearly. The shackles that bound one's body could only be seen through after one's divine sense was strong enough. The shackles were multicolored and had different colors in different areas. They were constructed by all kinds of mysterious energy. Normal people wouldn't be able to see it at all. His divine instinct could capture this kind of energy aura and describe it. Chu Feng observed it carefully. Was it born in the human body? Why did they look like real shackles? They were like metal chains that bound the vital parts of the human body. I am now in the quasi-king realm. I need to break through one shackle before I can truly break through. At the quasi-king realm, one's strength was already comparable to a king-level entity. The only things they lacked were their divine senses and speed. Chu Feng adjusted himself and circulated his special breathing technique. Then, he stretched his body with all his might in an attempt to break free. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed. He staggered and almost fell. Using his divine instinct, he could see that the multicolored shackles were glowing together and suppressing him. Chain after chain tightened, suppressing his entire body. The multicolored energy was like divine gold of different colors, locking him in place one after another. Chu Feng knew he was being too greedy. How could he break all the shackles at once? That wasn't realistic. He needed to make a choice. He calmed himself down and circulated his breathing technique. He needed to absorb the pollen here first. It was extremely beneficial to his body. The golden mist pouring out of the bowl-sized flower on the tree grew increasingly faint. It was no longer able to envelop Chu Feng and had been completely absorbed by his body. In the end, only a few strands were left. He opened his mouth and swallowed them all in one gulp. At this point, Chu Feng was satisfied. All the catalyst had entered his body without any waste. On the golden tree, the flower began to wither. Petal after petal, it carried a faint golden luster with it as it drifted down with the wind. There, a fruit had taken shape and was gradually growing. Chu Feng didn't pay any attention to it. He stood there with his eyes closed, silently sensing the changes in his body. He was preparing to break one of the shackles. My abilities are mainly due to my special breathing technique, supplemented by fist technique. In that case, breaking the shackles on one of my arms might be the best choice. The multicolored chains around his body had no effect on his breathing technique. But if he could free one of his arms, the power of his fist seals would increase explosively. He looked inside his right arm. There was a silver shackle there that seemed to be shackling his arm. The power within Chu Feng's body surged as he circulated his special breathing technique. Within moments, his whole body was glowing with dazzling beams of light. His right arm, in particular, was like a blazing sun, illuminating the misty area. If other beast kings were to see this, they would surely be shocked. That was because breaking the shackles required time. Generally speaking, one needed to consolidate after reaching the quasi-beast king realm. It couldn't be done in one go. Chu Feng was determined to become a king-level expert in one go. He didn't want to wait any longer. Thump! In the end, his right arm erupted with dazzling silver light as if something had exploded. His whole body staggered and almost fell to the ground. Chu Feng revealed a joyous expression. He had succeeded. Within a split second, he felt his body become light and agile. His right arm was suffused with a silver radiance which flowed to every part of his body to nourish it. An odd expression appeared on his face. The so-called silver shackles had transformed into a mysterious energy which fused into his flesh and blood, becoming some sort of supplement. Doubtlessly, the silver radiance on his right arm was the strongest. Only when everything calmed down did Chu Feng clench his right fist and wave it. In the end, with a pff sound, a brilliant white flame gushed out from his fist. This is... He was astonished but soon realized that he had activated a divine ability. Every time a creature severed a shackle, it would unlock a corresponding ability. It was almost like a divine ability. That day, the Ash Wolf had tried to break a certain shackle before his death. He wanted to activate the divine ability of Nirvana but failed in the end. What kind of ability is this? Chu Feng fumbled about. When he gently waved his fist, it turned into raging flames which could actually melt metal and melt stone. When he waved his fist with all his might, it turned into a dazzling beam of light which shot straight forward like a bolt of lightning. It was extremely powerful and could penetrate all kinds of materials. He deeply understood the power of a beast king. After activating this divine ability, his strength would increase greatly. Back then, the Ash Wolf had been gravely wounded and only had about 3% of its strength left. It could not use its ability to control earth and stone for a long period of time. Otherwise, Chu Feng would have no chance of killing it. Light, flame, lightning. This is a type of radiant power. Chu Feng was delighted and revealed a smile. This ability was very powerful and at least suitable for combat. He tried activating the Xingyi fist and formed the shape of a dragon with his right hand. In the end, the light transformed into a huge dragon and rushed out. The scene was extremely terrifying. While Chu Feng was astonished, he was also puzzled. Could it be that the true power of ancient martial arts could only be displayed after activating this divine ability? Following which, he used the demon ox fist. As a result, after the fist seal was sent out, a glowing bull rushed out. It was incomparably terrifying and trampled on the ground. Boom! Not far away, there were several boulders over 10 meters tall. However, they were easily smashed into smithereens. Chu Feng finally understood the true power of a king-level entity. Awakening is just like waking up from a dream. Only by unlocking one's potential and comprehending this true essence can one be considered a true expert. Chu Feng understood. This was the true essence of a king-level entity. At this time, a seed appeared on the golden tree. It seemed to be suffused with the essence of the sun. It was golden and resplendent. Moreover, the entire tree began to wither. Only the seed was glowing as it absorbed the essence of the mother plant. It was becoming increasingly resplendent. Chu Feng was astonished because he had clearly seen the appearance of the seed. It was completely different from before. It did not look like a seed, but rather a small sword. It was only an inch long. If enlarged, it would look like a heavy sword without a blade. Is this still a seed? Chu Feng was dumbfounded. Could he plant it again next time? He was truly speechless. In the end, the entire golden tree decayed and broke into pieces. It turned into dust and completely dissipated. The small sword was really short. It fell to the ground, flowing with a golden luster. Chu Feng picked it up and felt that it was heavier than ordinary metal. What was this thing? A seed or a weapon? It's still a seed. After careful observation, he felt that it should be a seed with a strange shape because he could feel the exuberant vitality it contained. It was hard to imagine what it would look like the next time it sprouted. It was too strange. He carefully tried and scratched the stone. As a result, a clear cut appeared on the stone. This seed was too hard. Chu Feng was not too worried about damage. In the past, the yellow cattle had almost broken its teeth when it tried to eat the seed. It was very strong. Can this seed be used as a flying sword? Chu Feng was suspicious. Now, he was starting to believe the rumor that a human could be grown from a seed buried underground. After all, he had already grown a sword body. One day, I'll grow a fairy of the 9 heavens, he murmured. Afterward, Chu Feng dug up the soil and took out the stone box. He was surprised to find something unexpected. This seed has a bit of vitality? Chu Feng was shocked. There were 2 more seeds in the stone box. One was black and shriveled, while the other seemed to have been squashed and was purplish-brown. The black and shriveled seed now had a trace of vitality. If it weren't for the fact that he had become a king-level entity, he wouldn't have sensed it at all. Good! Chu Feng was overjoyed. The first seed had already brought him all kinds of surprises. The remaining 2 might be even more astonishing, but the growing conditions would be harsher. As long as they weren't dead, everything would be fine. There would always be a chance to revive them in the future. Chu Feng put the 3 seeds into the stone box and carefully put them away. He then picked up the windbreaker he had thrown on the ground and walked forward in large strides. He then suddenly took a step forward to test his speed. In the blink of an eye, he broke through the shackles of the air and appeared hundreds of meters away. A terrifying explosion came from behind him. He had broken through the sound barrier. 380 meters in 1 second. This was in line with the strength of a king-level entity. Generally speaking, breaking through this level would allow one to reach the speed of sound. The physical requirements were extremely high. Ordinary creatures wouldn't be able to withstand it and would disintegrate. Chu Feng felt his own strength and was full of confidence. He gazed towards the north, as if he could see through the mist and see Shuntian. He wanted to kill his way back. Everyone is so enthusiastic and supportive. Even I feel a bit pressured. I must write this book well. Thank you all. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.